don't be caught counting your marbles. Up next, we've got the Women in Automotive panel. These ladies are the big cheese of the industry, and boy do they know their onions about everything automotive. Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable Roaring Twenties event.
Coming up next are the most distinguished names in the industry. You savvy? It's the Women in Automotive panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it is now time for the recharged Women in Automotive panel at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We want to thank our great friends, amazing panelists who are here today. I want to give a quick shout out to both Veronica Dunford and Kathy Gilbert for the amazing work they are doing behind the scenes. And I'd like to turn over the panel to a great friend of the Fixed Ops community. It is Lissette Gole, who is the head of automotive retail at Google. Lissette, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
I'm so happy to be back. Thanks, Ted. It's great to see all of you. I cannot wait for this panel today.
Well, you've got amazing talent. I know you've got a lot of questions to ask, and it's a great time in our industry. So, Lissette, I'm going to step out of the way and let you get things started.
Thanks, Ted. First, I just want to say I'm so honored to be here with you, influential and powerful women in this industry across dealerships, agencies, and our partners today. So thank you all for joining us. And our intent for our time together today is to discuss furthering access in our great industry that we all know and love so well to other women. And I know that this is something in particular that this group is really passionate about and that you are all dedicating your careers to doing. So before we begin, I'd like to properly introduce each of you as our esteemed panel members. And we'll start with Veronica. I'd like to introduce Veronica Dunford, co-owner of the Women in Automotive and Executive Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Dealerbuilt. Welcome, Veronica.
Thanks, Lissette. I'm happy to be here and always supporting Ted Ings and the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
We're thrilled to have you. And next, I'd like to introduce Kathy Gilbert, also co-owner of Women in Automotive and Senior Director of Minority Dealer and Women in Retail for CDK Global. Welcome, Kathy. Next, I would like to introduce Eliana Raggio, Director of Industry Relations at Digital Airstrike. And Eliana is also a Women in Automotive board member.
Hi, everyone. And yes, this is the first time Lissette has asked me to speak for her, and I usually am the one who's calling her. So thank you, Lissette, for inviting me.
So exciting. Great to have you.
Thank you.
And Michelle McLain, CEO and brand strategist of Retention Masters, also a Women in Automotive board member. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. So great to be here with all of you amazing women.
And Danielle Cumbee, Director of Sales Integration for Spectrum Automotive Holdings. Welcome, Danielle.
Thanks, Lissette, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with everyone.
And Jennifer Donovan, CMO of Dom 360. Welcome, Jennifer. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
And finally, last but certainly not least, Kara Delaine, Marketing and Advertising Director for the Henson Brand Dealerships. Welcome, Kara.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited because I know this panel is going to be the best one.
So let's dive into the panel. And I wanted to talk about the progress of increasing the presence in women in automotive. And as I mentioned, this is something that everybody in this forum cares deeply about. And I was reflecting on my career and I was thinking, personally, I've had a great honor of meeting each of you at industry events like Fixed Ops Roundtable, NADA, Digital Dealer, and of course, Women in Automotive. And over my 20-year career, I feel like I've seen the presence of women and underrepresented groups increase in leadership positions. And I think this is something that personally I'm really grateful to be a part of. But I also think that despite that, I still observe we have a long way to go, not only in key industry executive and leadership positions, but also within the day-to-day operations of our great industry. So when I think about day-to-day operations, I think about the dealership sales floor, F&I, service departments, and really women in the automotive retail sector in particularly, which is, as you know, something that I'm particularly passionate about. So I wanted to anchor us in a little bit of data first. According to Catalyst Inc., which is one of my favorite research forums for women in industries, women in the US have cited multiple reasons for avoiding a career in the automotive industry. And in 2020, so this is very recent, That included a lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lack of work-life balance, and a lack of flexible schedules. And so I want to talk about all of that today. And although women are almost half of the US labor force, they represent just 26% of the automotive workforce. And 21% were automotive dealership employees, and only 9% were automotive repair and maintenance employees. So we can see, very clearly in these numbers how it is different than the US workforce. And we know that the data of women and underrepresented groups, when we're in an early to mid-career stage, that greatly influences then the trajectory for the leadership and executive positions that they would like to hold later on. So what I wanted to do is talk about three things that I think are influencing this with each of you. And I know this is something we've talked about in particular. The first one is, how do you choose the right candidate for a culture add versus leaning into a culture fit? The next one is, how are we embracing change so we can get more women into our great industry that we all know and love so much? And then the third thing is, really, none of this can be done without strong allyship. So I want to talk about how do we help our allies further their impact. Sound okay to everybody? Great. Okay, so Danielle, I'm going to start with you on the topic of culture add versus culture fit. And I would love to hear, how do you create equitability when you are sourcing and interviewing candidates to ensure that you're evaluating the value that a candidate brings and that you're controlling for bias?
It's a great question, and some very eye-opening statistics that you shared too to open this up. So, I think the most important thing to remember is that change doesn't happen overnight. And so I think that it's important to make sure that we're always trying to expose ourselves, and we try to do this at Spectrum, to what is happening outside of our bubble to make sure that we are finding out what needs to change and how do we impact this and how do we remove that bias that, maybe it's unconscious and we don't know that it's there, but we obviously have to keep our eyes open to paying attention to ways that we can change it. So some of the things that we do at our organization and some things that I've recently seen that were very interesting, we'll set up panels when we're interviewing people to try to get different perspectives to come in and make sure that they have an opportunity to talk to people at different levels of our organization, and we can get input and we can formalize that process to make sure that somebody's not necessarily going to jot down a bias in their feedback if they have to fill out a form that they're sending into the team of people that's reviewing particular candidates. And something else that I saw recently that I actually shared with our HR department, I saw a company that had posted about a job. In their job description, they essentially called out the elephant in the room, and they said that, women and minorities are less likely to apply to a job if they don't feel like they check off every single requirement that's listed on the job description. And so it actually encouraged people that if they felt excited by that position, to please apply for the position. And even if they weren't a fit for that particular role, maybe they would find something that they were a fit for at their organization. So I think that there's a lot of different interesting ways that people can tackle this and try to start making small changes to take away that bias and start to open it up so that more people feel comfortable applying to positions and feel like they belong there if they do get, in fact, accepted for positions.
I love that. I hear panel conversations helps eliminate bias. And then also, I love the idea of using every forum to lift others up. I mean, I think that's phenomenal, even from the hiring departments. Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to move to you, Kara. You are representing the dealership for us today on this call, so thank you. So I have a few questions related to the dealership in particular. So in addition to the research that I stated a moment ago, there is a stereotype that women don't want to balance at all. So maybe, for example, they don't want to be a general manager or they don't want to be an F&I manager because they have late nights and weekends and it's hard to balance that with family, friends, etc. And I'm interested to hear, do you find that stereotype to be true in your stores?
I feel like at our stores, that stereotype doesn't really exist. But that being said, that doesn't mean that there is not women in our industry that do want more of a balance and to not overwork and be here at late, really late at night. But then I would say, as all of us sitting on this panel right now, you've got the ones that are definitely breaking that stereotype that absolutely want it all. And I can tell you there is many women in our dealerships and in our automotive company that absolutely give all the men a run for their money because they want it all. And half the time they're more organized, they're more driven, and they could outweigh the men over time. And I feel like within Foundation Automotive here at Hinson Brand Dealerships, we have a good mix. You know, some of my coworkers want, you know, more laxed hours, and we've been able to give them that. And then the ones that are shooting for the stars, we've been able to give that to them as well. So I don't think that stereotype is true anymore because we wouldn't be here on this panel if it was.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I actually have a follow-up question for you, Kara. You started to allude to flexible hours, and I know that Hinson Brand Dealerships have just begun piloting a 4-day work week with the intention of trying to diversify recruitment and retention. So I'm really interested to hear, given that this pilot is just kicked off, what needs to be true for Hinson to declare this pilot a success?
So we started the 4-day work week, I believe August 1st. So we've been, you know, just over a month here in, and we've had some help from some other dealerships outside of our group that have seen success with a 4-day work week. And all of our departments are doing it, from the techs to accounting, I mean, our receptionists, marketing, whatever it may be. And it took, you know, months for us to figure out the scheduling, because if you are not staffed up correctly, then it will never work. Say, you know, it's your scheduled day off, your coworker is supposed to be here, they call in sick. You've got to have your managers on board that have backup or enough staff to make sure that you do have coverage, especially in the shop with our technicians. We've seen a lot of different scenarios arise just within the first month of piloting this 4-day work week. But through all the challenges that we've had, we've been able to come up with better solutions, whether that is to hire some more people that maybe couldn't have worked all of these long hours because they have a family at home. You know, we're bringing new people in because they do have that flexibility. And so it's giving us a better recruitment strategy here. And I think over time, we're going to fine tune it to be exactly what we need it to be, because I will tell you that we did have an increase in sales, and every single person at this dealership has been grateful to have that flexibility, that when they do want time with their families or just need a day off, they can take it. But we never force them to take the day off. If they have work running and they have a customer coming in and they want to come on their off day, they can. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. But I have seen a lot of our employees, you know, seem to have a change in attitude because they do have more of a work-life balance now. So it's been a great thing here at Hinson Brand.
Congratulations. That's really exciting to see. I think I heard two major takeaways from you, Kara. One is continue to learn and pivot. You know, and perseverance is going to be key, because it's really hard to go into any new organizational structure. A lot of us have gone even from working from home to hybrid work weeks, etc. Change is hard. And then the next thing is, I would assume that it's not just the women that are taking advantage of the flexible schedules, but it's everybody, and everybody is finding a better balance to work life, and sales are increasing while you do it.
It's been great, and hopefully that we continue to do it, and you know, we could be a trendsetter for the rest of our company and the automotive industry as a whole.
Congratulations. So Veronica, I'm going to turn it over to you now and talk a little bit about Women in Automotive. So Women in Automotive is your organization committed to supporting and empowering women in all aspects of the automotive industry. And the mission is to recruit, retain, and develop female employees and leaders in every aspect of the auto business. So I absolutely love that. Very all-encompassing. And Women in Automotive Recharge is offering a new way to get involved. So can you share a bit about how women and allies can get involved in this year in particular?
Well, thanks, Lissette. Actually, I was going to speak up on that last question, so this was a perfect segue. I think for both things, you know, the pandemic did a lot for us. for women and for men, obviously, with being able to allow that work-life balance. It showed a lot of dealers and vendors, companies in general, that allowing those flexible schedules made it a lot easier for people to be able to do what they needed to do to get their jobs done. Be it women or be it men, it just opened everyone's eyes to the fact that we can be more accommodating. It just seemed that they didn't want to be as accommodating to women previously when it was both needed it, if that makes sense. And now the women that have the families, it's not just women anymore. There's stay-at-home dads, there's stay-at-home moms, but now that with all these flexible schedules, we can all get our work done. You know, some of us don't have kids at home. We have disabled parents or family members that we need to take care of, but we still need to get our work done. So I think, and you know, I wouldn't say that the pandemic was a good thing, but in some respects it was. It gave us all an opportunity to realize, hey, there are other ways to skin that cat. So sorry to divert, but that was my response to the last one.
That's great.
As for women in automotive, yes, there's plenty of ways to get involved. We are actually going to be doing a lot of new things. We have a social event coming up in October that's going to be a ton of fun. Obviously, we're going to have Google there doing their I Am Remarkable. That will be outstanding. We have a new community being built that will have memberships for mentoring and also for career pathing. Kathy will probably speak a little more to that because she's heading up our mentorships. It's a phenomenal path that we are growing. We're going to be evolving from a once or twice a year conference and webinar company to a community where women and men can come and get the support that they need for entry level all the way to executive, to build their careers, to get their mentorship, to get accountability, scorecards, anything they need really. How do they build a new resume? You know, a lot of different things that they may need in their career path. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be unveiling our new community in October at that social event.
Wonderful. Okay, so unveiling in October in Las Vegas, correct?
Yes.
Yes, no better place to be. So actually, Kathy, that's a great segue. I would love to hear from your perspective as, you know, co-founder of Women in Automotive here as well and leading the mentorship program. I personally found in my career that mentorship and sponsorship has been key to my success. And I think when I look around to a lot of others as well. So are there a few topics that you're really honing into, you know, that you think are like the first that we need to unveil for mentorship?
So we've been actually supporting mentorship for years. So this is kind of our recharged look at mentoring. And last year at our conference, what was really exciting about it was the number of women that stepped up to say, I need a mentor, or I'd like to be a mentor. And so one of the things we find is women want to give back. You know, people want to give back. If you ask them their experience, if you ask them how did they get involved in the industry, what tips did they learn to help you avoid some of those obstacles. So I would tell you that our mentoring program is one of the top for us. And the reason for that is because there's so many women out there that look at automotive and really wonder whether they can build a career here. And so the mentorship and having someone to talk to, whether that's a mentor or a coach or just an advocate that's going to share with you great articles or great people to meet or recommendations about coming to a great conference like Women in Automotive, it's just a good opportunity to network and learn from other women that have, you know, they've walked this path, and the things that women experience in partnership with men, because, you know, men are predominant in the automotive industry, but we learn from each other. And so the mentorship is a great way for us to leverage that knowledge to help those new to the industry or those that are looking for a path here to find it.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. It's probably the most important pillar, I believe, to start from. So I'm so excited to see this in October.
Yeah.
Eliana, I'm going to turn this over to you. I would like to hear your perspective on, how we create urgency to increase gender diversity in the retail auto industry, because I think it can't just be women trying to bring along this change, as we've already talked about. And we need to create the same urgency for our male leaders within our companies. You have a great perspective inside and outside of the industry. So how do we do that?
Okay, so I have a lot on this topic. So I feel like there's different layers. And so yes, we hit on mentorship, and we're going to talk about allyship in a minute. But before that, so you already said it at the top of the hour, Lissette. Men are in charge. This is a male-dominated industry, right? So first things first, what do business owners and business leaders look at? You got to show them the numbers, right? So let's talk some data first, okay? Harvard, they did a study to find the impact of gender diversity on the performance of business teams, and their findings are very firm. Teams with an equal gender mix perform better than male-dominated teams in terms of both sales and profits. Teams with lower percentages of women have lower sales and lower profits than teams with a balanced gender mix. Additionally, Fortune 500 companies with the highest representation of women on boards financially outperform companies with the lowest representation of women on boards. And a recent Gallup poll found that gender diverse businesses units have higher average revenue than less diverse business units. So if we're just talking money, men, let's hire some more women. Women obviously are very important in the workplace. They actually make an organization a better place to work for people of all genders. So it really is amazing that the auto industry is lagging when it comes to gender diversity. I feel that the single most important thing organizations can do to attract and retain talented women, like Danielle said, admonish sexism, offer gender parity in pay, talk about the experiences in your culture, and give them opportunities for success. Cox Automotive, they do a staffing study. And the last one they did, I believe, was 2021. So it's pretty recent. And they said the top 5 things that prospective candidates, not just women, just all prospective candidates, are looking for in a company it's not pay. Pay isn't in the top 5. Instead, people are searching for a great culture. They're searching for a supportive work environment. The first one was career development. Second, communication. 3, they want to be appreciated. Who doesn't want to be appreciated? 4, shared values. And 5th was diversity and inclusion. So when you have all of those things, or you're collecting all of those things in your corporation, like Kara was saying, are you sharing that on social media? Are you putting some of those things in your job postings? Are you actually saying, hey, we really do want to attract more of those people? You have to put that out there. Are you putting it in LinkedIn? When you do your Facebook postings, it shouldn't all be about sales dealerships. It should also be about the kind of culture that you have, and also don't forget that the biggest champions might already be in your organization. Your women in your organization right now, they can actually put out on their social media platforms, hey, we have a job opening. I'm telling you right now, it's a great place to work, because I, as a mother of 3, am making it work, and I'm doing great here. And I know if you're like me, you might find, that this would be a great fit for you as well. Boom. Who wouldn't want that? I would absolutely take the word of somebody that was in my social circle. Okay. So aside from that, let's talk about allyship now. Okay. Because I know Kathy and Veronica have mentorship on lock, but when it comes to allyship, let's talk about, okay, I'm reminded of the story of Wilhelmina Fleming. Okay, does that ring a bell with anyone? Okay, well, she worked as a maid in the home of Harvard professor Edward Pickering. Okay, and Pickering became frustrated with all of his male assistants at the Harvard College Observatory. And according to legend, he famously declared that his maid could do a better job. Who was his maid? Fleming. So in 1881, Pickering actually hired Fleming to do just that. And during her career, now she was a maid, she didn't have any formal training, right? But during her career, she helped develop a common designation system for stars, cataloged thousands of stars and other astronomical things. And she's noted for her discovery of the Horsehead Nebula. Anyway, she went from being a maid to becoming an astronomer at Harvard Observatory. Now, could she have done that without Professor Pickering speaking up for her, advocating for her, giving her the opportunity that she herself didn't know, couldn't see for herself? Would that have been available to her? No. And I think that kind of allyship is something that we all need. We need somebody who's in the room. It's not a mentor. A mentor is different. A mentor's job is to give you tailored advice, tailored specifically to you and to your career aspirations. It's, they give you the good, the bad, the ugly, no holds barred. Got it. But a sponsor, an ally like that, is somebody who's going to be in the room, who's going to spend their own valuable political and social capital on you, the person who's going to pound on the table and on your behalf get it done behind closed doors for you. And that's the kind of thing that we need to find for ourselves within our own organizations, if that's an organization that you are planning on staying at. I recently rewatched a TED Talk. Are you guys into TED Talks? I know I am. Amazing woman, business executive at Morgan Stanley, Carla Harris. And she talked just about this one thing, about how to find yourself a sponsor, but, there's performance. She says there's performance currency. It's valuable. So that's put your head down, work hard. You're going to get noticed and you're going to move up the ladder, right? Great. You need that. But there's also that social currency that you need, where you have to make those connections within your organization and find that sponsor who's going to pound on that table for you behind closed doors. But she ends her TED Talk by saying, hey, for those potential sponsors that are in the room, if you've been invited into the room and you have a seat at the table, you have a responsibility to speak. If somebody is worth your currency, spend it. And that is what I would challenge other people in the auto industry to do. There are fantastic women in the auto industry already. If there is an opportunity for them and they can't see it themselves and they don't know it's available, speak, please.
I love that, Eliana. I love that. And I think to go back to what you said at first, even if it's just about the money, Kara has already proved for us that like everything that you said in your studies is coming true for her dealerships, right? So fantastic. You gave us a lot of really, really good best practices that we could leave here today and actually do, which is an amazing thing, right? So loving the fact that as an ally, you can leave here and do a couple of things. I actually wanted to ask Jennifer, from your perspective as CMO of Don 360, out of all of the areas that Eliana mentioned, and maybe even further, what do you think are the two key areas where an ally could start in this moment of change that we're in the auto industry right now?
That's a great question. I mean, first and foremost, I think that I want Eliana to be my ally after referencing those Harvard studies.
We all need allies. We all need them. And
be my sponsor?
That's what I'm saying. Like you literally have to go up to somebody and say, hey, you know the kind of work I'm good at. I need you to get in that room and, get me that job, I mean, I can do it. We all need that. And yes, Jennifer, if there's ever any time I could do that for you, I absolutely would.
Well, I love that. I love that you said that because, I think the two skills that really need to be honed in on are, breaking down the walls, the paradigm shift that needs to happen. This isn't about male or female dominance. I think that certain industries skew a certain way. Automotive has always skewed male. Ad agencies, for instance, have skewed more female, right? But it's changing the ecosystem bell to bell, right? It's and as an agency, we're doing the same thing. I think one of the things that we've done is we've created this hybrid work environment, which many of you have also done. And that has made it much more accommodating for the person that wants it all. And that can be male or female, right? The second thing that we've done is, everyone talks about DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what are, are we holding all companies to that standard? Are we holding all dealerships to that standard? I think it's about culture first and changing attitudes, right? Taking DEI and making the male employees and managers accountable to that. It's the mutual foundation between us and our clients, and that's how it's going to happen. So if I see that at one of our clients, that there's a deficiency in a certain area or there is a star, I'm like, why don't you let so-and-so come up? I want her opinion on this. And that's a valid voice, right? So it's not only, I think as an ally, it's also my responsibility to call out the people's voices that we need to speak up that aren't necessarily being given that chance in their organization. So I think we owe that to each other. Hopefully I touched on your question.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. I love that. And I think, I love that you ended with saying like, we are also allies to everybody else who may or may not be in the room. And that is a moment to bring everybody along. And actually you're teaming up really nicely for Michelle to round us out. Michelle, I want to hand it over to you. You have a really great and strong branding strategy that you're known for, which is We Rise Together. And I really think what Jennifer was just talking about hits that, squarely. So what does that mean to you in the context of effective allyship for women in automotive? We rise together.
Absolutely. Thank you. I've been in this industry now 22 years. And although, like all of you, we've all seen an evolution with more women and more diverse backgrounds and people coming into our industry, we still have a really long way to go. And one thing that's been really important to me as I've grown my own company, as I work with dealerships across the country and now even across the world, is getting them to understand that my We Rise Together, it goes beyond the automotive industry. What I've really seen is that when it comes to allyship, being able to encompass other businesses, other companies who have already figured it out has been something that I think will be able to move us forward in so many ways, because everyone buys cars, right? So why are we limiting ourselves to just staying inside our comfortable circle within the automotive industry? We can learn so many things from other organizations like Google, for example, and things that they're doing on a diversity level, the way that they're encompassing different types of employees. For me, We Rise Together, it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something I bleed. It's not just a hashtag. And I think Kara can attest to this as well, guys. Love or hate Jeff Bezos from Amazon. He says that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think we all have to ask ourselves, not just as women, but we have to ask of owners of dealerships, of people who are in executive positions, in vendor roles, things like that, or even people that are working in mom and pop shops, for example. We all have to ask ourselves, what is our brand saying about us? Are we exuding what we hope to be able to embrace? Do we have the type of culture that is actually going to draw people in versus pushing others away? And with women in automotive, something I'm so proud to be a part of this board. This year especially, we are really branching out and we are trying to embrace areas outside of retail automotive, because I think for so long that's been such the focus. And of course, now we have the Fixed Ops Roundtable, which is really bringing in service professionals, other fixed ops professionals, but we have to go bigger. We have to do more. We have to be able to touch every area and every facet of the industry. And with women in automotive especially, we're going to begin doing retail events that are actually going to have focal points on areas outside of retail. And something that I would personally like to be involved with is maybe bringing in some allies that are outside of our industry to get a third-party perspective, have them maybe sponsor some of our events and say, hey, this is what we see and this is where you can improve. So I think in terms of building allies, we have to think outside of our industry, even though it's something we all know and love. But we need to take things from other people's books as well.
I love that. Yes, I think we don't want to get too narrow-minded in our initiative. So I think that's fantastic. We are rounding out the end of the panel, and I wanted to do two things. One is a friendly reminder to come see everybody here at Women in Automotive in October in Las Vegas. We really cannot wait to see you. I'm so grateful to know all of you. I will say personally, you've just been so instrumental into my career and my trajectory. So I'm so grateful for you. And then in the spirit of I Am Remarkable, I wanted to do just a quick lightning round. And one of the things that I like to ask, is because you're all here because you're industry leaders. If we could just go around the table, what is one thing that makes you personally remarkable? Kara, I'll start with you.
I think for me, I'm bringing something different to the automotive industry that has yet to exist. So I'm anxious to see where it's going to go in the future.
I love that. Thank you. And Veronica.
I think it goes right along with Kara. I think all of us here on this panel are doing the same thing. We're bringing not only to the automotive industry, but to the industry, to all industries that have women in it. We are empowering and, supporting women to help them rise up. As Michelle says, we all rise together.
That's right. And Michelle, what's one thing that makes you remarkable?
What makes me remarkable are all of you. I mean, truthfully, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today. I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it weren't for so many amazing women leaders and mentors, and even a lot of men in this industry who saw something in me that at a time I didn't see in myself. So what makes me remarkable are people.
Great. And Danielle?
I'm a little bit of a bulldozer type personality, so I like to try to take that and channel it to make those opportunities for others to be heard and others to have a seat at the table, and just keep pushing along so that we can create those for others.
That's fantastic. Kathy, what makes you remarkable?
So I would just tell you that I'm a pay it forward kind of person. And that is, there are so many times in our lives where you get a chance to give a helping hand, whether that's advice, whether that's coaching, whether it's mentoring, being that advocate for minority and women. I have spent my entire career, 28 plus years doing that. So I say pay it forward. I do it. And I believe it's not only the big things, but it's the small things too. A big smile, telling someone their hair looks nice, telling someone they're dressed well. There are little things that you can do to make someone's day. And I take pride in doing that. So paying it forward.
You're right. You can lift somebody up even in the smallest moments. That's right. Jennifer.
Well, I would say for me, it's being able to be super positive and being able to be an inspiration to those around me through my journey, right? I've had a lot of inspiration around me, and I want to be able to offer the same to anyone and everyone that I touch moving forward.
Love it. And Eliana, round us out.
Man, they were all good answers. I pride myself on being a fiercely loyal friend and on living a life of gratitude. But if I had to say something else that makes me remarkable, specific to the auto industry, it's that people keep putting microphones in my face and I use my voice. And you can too. We all have a voice. And while we spend a lot of our female growing years being told, just sit there and look pretty and don't say anything and talk when you're talked to. That time is over. You have a voice and you can use it for change, to advocate for somebody else, to mentor, to ally, or just to show everyone that you are the baddest bitch out there. Let's do it. But ladies, don't stay quiet any longer. It's not doing us any good. And as Michelle said, we all rise together.
That's right. On that note, thank you all. I'm so grateful for you and I appreciate your time. It's always such a pleasure.
Lissette, that was a pretty remarkable panel. So thank you, Lissette, for all you do for our industry. And I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Amazing content, Eliana. Great to meet you. Your words resonated. I think a lot of us took substantial notes on what you shared with us. Thank you. Jennifer, nice to have you as part of the Fixed Ops Roundtable at Dom 360. Thank you. Michelle McLain, thank you for all you do for our industry. Danielle Cumbee, thank you. Great to always work with you and your team, and thank you for being a big part of Women in Automotive as well. Kathy Gilbert, keep pushing it forward. Love it, Kathy. So love everything you shared. Veronica, you and Kathy and Veronica, what you've done for our industry and what you continue to do, and just fantastic stuff. Keep up the great work. Kara,
Thanks,
as
Ted.
always, an up-and-coming leader in our industry. So Kara, Delaine, thank you. And Lissette Gole from Google. Everybody, the Women in Automotive panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
think the class was fantastic. Very hands-on, very practical knowledge that is useful to not only just the service advisors, but I think anybody involved with touch points of the service customer.
Rev your engines and don your checkered flags and don't get left in the dust, because feeding into our event is none other than Bob Tasca.
Bob Tasca is the vice president of the Tasca Automotive Group, the CEO of Tasca Racing, and most recently the 2022 Topeka Heartland National Champion. Bob, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
It's always great to be back with you guys.
Bob, Kara and I have had a chance to get ready for this event. Kara more than I, okay? And BG showed us a video that you did recently where you are involved on NHRA with the YES Youth Educational Services Program, and you addressed high school students who are learning about becoming a tech. Bob, with the demand for techs being so high, talk to us today about why somebody should consider being an automotive technician.
I think the biggest problem in the industry is a lack of awareness. I just don't think people understand just how exciting the field is. And with Ford Motor Company, Motorcraft, and NHRA, we put together a program within the NHRA YES program to bring this message out to over 30,000 high schoolers from around the country, all different markets. And they come out, and a lot of these kids, it's not even on their radar screen. I know it because after I get done speaking, they come up to me, and the questions they have are incredible. So it's been great to get in front of these kids to share this message, along with the advisors, the counselors, the teachers that bring these kids out. And even some of them get very surprised. It's not like when my grandfather started back in the 60s, they called him a grease monkey. I mean, literally, his family was ashamed that he went into the automotive technician space. Today, we call our technicians electrical engineers for a variety of reasons. Just the level of sophistication of these vehicles, the knowledge that you need, and it's only getting more and more and more as you look ahead to these electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. The technology in these cars are incredible.
Wow. I can only imagine what demand is in our market right now. So it kind of leads me to a question that I've been thinking about lately with our own stores here that I'm a part of and across the industry as a whole. Do you know what the average turnover rate is of technicians?
So I don't know the exact number. I can only share like within our group, but clearly the entry level tech that comes in, and you know this from talking to dealer friends around the country, they come in out of high school or some of these Votech schools and, limited on tools, and, they get thrown into the fire. It comes down to the commitment at our level. We're the ones that have to look in the mirror on that. Do we put our techs in a position to win? And part of that is in our group, we have a tool kit program with Mac Tools where we have a starter kit so they can walk in the door with the toolbox and all the tools that they need. And if they stay with us for 1 year, they keep everything. It's their tools. So, giving them the tools, giving them the mentor time that they need to come up to speed. We have quick service locations, quick lube locations in all our Ford stores, which is a great, kind of training ground to get the young techs up to speed. But we find that once they turn the corner, once they start getting their certifications, and along with certifications comes raises, right? The more you know, the more you earn. The stability of the tech base becomes fantastic. I mean, you got senior master technicians that are earning well into the six figures. They're not going anywhere, right? But it's the entry level tech, which is the highest turn. And I think that can vary wildly by dealership, depending on how much time they invest and what their internal training program is for these young technicians.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Bob, you've also mentioned, I heard you say that this is one of the few careers that just 5 years out of high school, it has the potential for somebody to earn up to six figures. Not everybody, okay, but you've talked about not just the skill sets, but the mindsets you need to be a successful technician in the market today. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I open up my speech, I'm with a couple of panelists that talk about, how the need, the demand for technicians. And I look at the kids, they're all looking down at us. And I say, you know what I do when I sit in a format like this? If I'm you looking down at us, making this pitch, I say, so what? So what you need technicians? So what the industry is desperate for technicians? What's in it for me? Why is this a good long-term decision for me and my family? And I kind of boil it down to three simple things. The number one question I get asked is, how much am I going to make? And how long is it going to take me to get to the top of my career path? And, the beauty about being an automotive technician is I can introduce you to techs 5 years out of high school that are earning or well on their way to earning a six-figure career, and they put the time in, right? I can also introduce you to technicians in my company, been with me for 20 years, that are nowhere near a six-figure career. So you have to put the work in, but the earning opportunity is fantastic. The second thing I talk about is job portability, right? So life changes. I'm talking to, guys and gals just coming out of high school. You get married, you have kids, and, 6 years down the road, you got to move. Well, a lot of career choices that you pick, you got to start over. You got to start at the bottom. If you can even find a job, right, in the career that you're in. Well, in our world, you can pick the phone up as a certified tech, call any dealer anywhere in the country. They'll pay to move you, probably give you a raise the first day you walk in. That's the level of demand. And when you look at job portability, it's pretty unparalleled. The last thing I talk about is job stability. And it wasn't that long ago, just a few years ago, I talked to all these kids and say, you don't know what a recession is. You've never been through anything like this. And you don't know what it's like to go home and to have to look your family in the eye and say, I lost my job. And I don't know if we're going to be able to pay the mortgage. I mean, these are life-changing events that you never, ever have to live through. But we've all been through the worst. They literally closed our country down through COVID. And I can tell you, in our company, there wasn't one technician, not one, that came to work and didn't have work to do. Some chose not to come to work for health reasons. But, through the difficult times in our industry, when recessions hit, we may sell a few less cars, that's for sure. But people have to keep their cars running. And a lot of times through recessions, we see our fixed operations actually grow. So when you're coming out of high school and you got to start to put all this together, where am I going to go work? What am I going to do? What's my earning opportunity? And you start to look at the benefits that the automotive space has to offer. It's truly unparalleled. And also, Ted, I share with these kids, let's say you don't want to be a tech your whole life, right? You come in and I can introduce you to GMs of our company. I can introduce you to service managers, fixed ops directors, people that started as technicians and ended up moving their way up the line in a car dealership, because the truth is, if you know how a car works and you can fix it, you can do anything you want in a car dealership. And, my grandfather started as a mechanic. I started as a mechanic, and there's no better place to start, in my opinion, than as a technician.
And Bob, as a follow-up, you're so right. Kara and I just had a panel where we interviewed 3 gentlemen who have come up as technicians and are now fixed ops directors at 3 different dealerships in different parts of the country. And Bob, they have passion in their voice. They have the magic, and it resonates. And the audience can, Bob, you can feel that because they came up, through the ranks, and now they are leaders, in the dealership.
Well, and they know what they're talking about, right? You can't fake it in our industry. You either know the machine or you don't know the machine. And the customer can smell that out instantly. And in our company, we could introduce you to many fix op directors that came up as technicians. And it's just a great place to start in the field. And, it's not like what it used to be, right? Greasy going home. And, these guys come in with plastic gloves. They're like going to a hospital working on some of these vehicles. And it's only going to accelerate with electrification. The skill set, what's going to be required to fix these cars in the future are going to be very different than what we've done in the past.
Yeah. And you talk a lot about passion, and I've heard the phrase work hard, play hard, but I've heard you, Mr. Tasca, say work harder than you play. So touch on that a little bit. What do you mean by that phrase that I've heard you use a few times?
Yeah, so the announcer, when I get done, talking about technicians and earning opportunity, he says, well, Bob, how come you have some techs that are 100,000 plus a year and some that are nowhere near 100,000 a year? And, I go into, what I think are 3 key things that I've been blessed to pick up from very successful people that I've been around in my life. The first is the old saying, work hard, play hard. We've all heard it. I asked the kids, everyone raises their hands. I said, well, I'm here to tell you, make sure you work harder than you play. And the bottom line is there's no compromise for a great work ethic. I can go up to any manager in our company 1 week on the job, doesn't matter how much experience, how much money the employee has, man or woman, and say, hey, what do you think about the new guy or gal? And 1 week or less, guy instantly can say, gonna make it, most likely not gonna make it. And it's got nothing to do with anything other than work ethic. They come in early, work hard, ask questions, and leave late. You can just see the effort that they're putting in, and it's so critical to success. The second thing I tell all the kids, be responsible with your life. And I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol and criminal background. I mean, if they haven't figured it out by high school, they're already in trouble, right? I talk to them about being responsible with their time, right? And my grandfather taught me early on, if there is a shortcut to success, there's not many, but there is one that we've discovered. If you ask the right people the right questions and remember the answers, you can really, and that's not necessarily the good news. There's also the failures in successful people's lives. You learn from both. And nowadays, these young kids, they have a choice when they wake up. They can hang out with the winners or they can hang out with the losers, right? I mean, that's just right in front of you, black and white. And for me and all the successful people that I know, we choose to hang out with the winners. We want to be around the winners because if we can figure out what they've done and seek their advice, we can get there quicker. And then the last thing, I always tell people to have goals in your life, right? So one's not enough because sometimes things don't work out, and 10's too many because you won't get any done. But if you can pick off, 2 or 3 things that you really want to focus on in your life, work hard, ask the successful people in those trades, what they've done to win. Success is, it's almost guaranteed. I mean, I just can't see how you can't not be successful when you follow those principles. And, as I related to the auto industry, it's just a fantastic opportunity for young talent getting involved in a new career to align themselves with great organizations. And I tell the kids, I said, listen, and I'll tell the fixed ops directors out there, I said, walk into a dealership. Okay, ask to talk to the service manager. You're an aspiring technician. And pick the dealer that you feel is going to put you in the best position to win. And that comes down to whether it's tool support or training support or mentorships. I mean, one shoe doesn't fit all in our industry, and some dealers do it better than others. And those are the dealers that you want to align yourself with.
Yeah.
Bob, we have a number of techs coming up on the roundtable who've been on previous roundtables, all different ages. One of them, and Kara, I'm referring to Marco Zwanenberg, is a master tech, and he's a little bit older, Bob. He's been a tech all his life, and I recall he took a picture of his hands, and he posted that on social media, and he put in the post, to customers, look at these hands, and I want to show you what I do for a living, and the things that you may not be aware of what I do. Bob, does age or experience contribute to being a successful tech?
No, I tell you, and there's more and more females joining this industry as well. In our 70-year history, the quickest person, which was just under 4 years, to go from 0 to a senior master technician was a woman. And I can introduce you to young techs, men or women who are absolutely fast-tracked, either senior master technicians or well on their way. And I can introduce you to techs that have been with us for 20 or 30 years. So I don't think it has anything to do with age, gender, race. It simply comes down to desire. Okay, the ones that wake up each and every day to try to aspire to be the top of their field are the ones that win. And I think that you're going to see in our industry a major shift coming, okay? You're going to have maintenance and light repair, which to some extent is going to shrink, especially with electrification. And then you're going to see, and I call them electrical engineers today, the tech of tomorrow is going to be a real electrical engineer. The level of sophistication, programming, software, updates that's going to go into these cars, there's techs that are going to be left behind that don't keep up with the certification. So it's more important now than ever to really make a commitment to the trade and aspire to be the best that you can be. And that's through training and certification, and a lot of hard work.
And I'm assuming, Bob, you've talked a lot about your grandfather. I assume that he was one of your biggest mentors growing up.
Yeah, no question. I mean, he started our family business, and very proud to have continued what he started. But he was more comfortable in the back shop fixing cars than he was in the showroom. I mean, he really came up through the back end of the business, and probably why our group is so fixed ops focused. I spend more of my time in fixed ops than I do on the front end of the business. My cousins help me out there, but I just love parts and service. I love fixed ops. I love being with the techs. I love seeing what they're working on. I have a kind of a line, when I walk through the store, particularly the stores that I visit out of town, first place I go is the service department. And I love to talk to, what are you working on? And, you want a conversation starter with technicians, just walk up to them and say, what are you working on? And it's amazing what you can learn, just from talking to the technicians.
Going back to Bob Sr., I recall that he wrote in his book, and I listened to the audiobook as well, Bob, that he was working as a technician on a weekend, and he had a car he was working on very early in his career, and he turned that vehicle around and repaired it for a customer who was away on a trip and needed that in a hurry, and that ended up being a very, very prominent individual. Bob, would you mind just tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, it's amazing. You never know who you're going to meet, right? That's what they say. My grandfather did exactly what you said, Ted. Gets a letter in the mail a few weeks later and said, Dear Bob, just so impressed with the level of service I received at your dealership. Please don't forget to thank the fat mechanic out back. Can't remember his name. Ernest R. Breach, CEO of Ford Motor Company. And didn't know that my grandfather was the dealer, and my grandfather took care of him. They became very, very friendly. But early on in my grandfather's career, that had a profound effect on my grandfather, because Ernest was a little embarrassed about what took place, invited him to the New York Auto Show to meet Henry Ford II he wanted my grandfather to be just an incredible example of customer service at Ford stores. And and then my grandfather became very friendly with Henry Ford II. So that relationship that my grandfather shared with Ford, that we share with Ford, started because a customer broke down in East Providence, Rhode Island, happened to be the CEO of Ford Motor Company at the time, and my grandfather took care of him.
And Bob, I know Kara wants to ask you about women in the business, but before I do, let me just come back to what you just said. Tasca was also known and is known for some of the things that you did very early on with Bob Sr. And your father as well, where you did things that were for the consumer. I recall the phrase, be there for the taker, not the maker. Things like opening on Saturdays, Bob. You were one of the first dealers, maybe the first, to do that for service. And also to have a designated person who would work with the customer, not just work on the car, a different person to fix the customer versus the car. Just tell us about that if you could.
Yeah, my grandfather had quick service in the 60s. We have pictures of it. And he just felt that he had the signs on over the top of the doors, just like we do today. And he was just way ahead of his curve. I mean, my grandfather, the customer, was the center of everything that he did. We have a phrase that we use today: "You will be satisfied." That's our motto. It's on every piece of paper we print. And when a customer isn't satisfied, they use it against us. I'm not satisfied. And it really is a challenge that we challenge our organizations today. To satisfy the customer. It's the cornerstone of everything that we do. Quick service, mobile service we're getting into now, pickup and delivery, just going the extra step to wow the customer.
Wow. It sounds like y'all have been staples in the automotive industry for quite some time, and now you're leading the way after your grandfather. And as a woman in the industry and a young one being that, I like asking everybody that I talk to that I consider mentors in the automotive industry, how can we collectively encourage other women to be a part of the automotive industry?
Well, when I speak, I kind of relate it to the race car, right? So the race car doesn't know there's a guy driving it or a woman driving it, has no idea. When I pull up alongside a competitor, happens to be a woman, I mean, I'm competing. I don't care who's in the other car, right? So I think any industry, I don't care whether it's auto or non-auto, it's the effort that you put in. It's your work ethic. It's your desire to be successful. It don't matter if you're a man or woman, right? So to me, I've never looked at it that way. I look at the person, the individual, and the effort that they put in. And today we're seeing more and more women technicians than we've ever seen. And I think that'll continue to grow. There's women throughout our entire organizations, from GMs to service writers to sales managers. I mean, you name it. It ultimately comes down to, what you want to do and how much effort you want to put in.
Wow.
Love it. Bob, last question for today. When you won the Topeka Heartland national champion, I saw the video, and Kara did her best to mimic that video. You said, "How about that BG machine?" And you pointed to the car. Tell us what BG has done for the Tasca Automotive family and for your consumers as well, being BG customers.
Well, let me take you back a few days before that win. So on Wednesday, I'm out in Wichita at BG's world headquarters, and I got an opportunity to meet the team, the engineering behind the liquid, and I was blown away. I've been around BG my whole life, but what I saw at the engineering side of their business and the amount of time, money, effort, engineering, testing that they do in their products. This is not fluid in a bottle with a label. Let me tell you that. And you can just appreciate the attention to detail and the energy they put into their products. And it makes sense why they have the best warranties in the industry for customers that use the BG product, whether it's engine, transmission, coolant, brakes, you name it. So after going through that, I'm excited getting into Topeka, and we're coming off a pretty hot streak, going through the West Coast, winning Sonoma, coming into Topeka, Kansas, and then we get the win. And it was a huge win for BG. This is the first year that they've branded the car. BG's always been on my car. but it's the first year that they've been a primary sponsor on it. The car looks fantastic. I'm sure you'll show it to the viewers. And we got that win. And it really, for us, it's been a turning point of our season. We went on to win the next race, semifinal finish in Indianapolis. And we're one of the top cars now to run for the championship. And it takes an army to bring one of these cars out, and sponsors that support us, and BG is at the top of the page. But I just wish I could have taken my entire company through their engineering, and those that are watching that use BG, or if you don't, certainly consider it, because it's incredible technology. It's great value to the customer. It's great value to the dealer. I'll tell you this, Ted, when we look at tires, brakes, batteries, BG, alignments, and rotations and balances, when we take our 6 key selling area, BG is now the #1 gross generating product that we sell in our service departments across our 15 rooftops. So it's a great profit opportunity, and it comes with a great warranty. I mean, we use their warranty every month to loyal customers that use the product. And when you can hand them a check for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, over and above what they can get, it really blows them away. And that's why we support BG. And they're on my race car. I tell people all the time, there's nobody on my race car because they give me a check. I have to believe in their product, and we have to use their product in order for me to represent them. And I can't be any more proud of representing BG than I already am.
Well, Bob, Tasca, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable and the Fixed Ops community and all the technicians and their leaders watching today, thank you, and we're very grateful to you.
Oh, it's always great to be on. And Carrie, you look pretty good in that fire suit. I hope BG doesn't swap me out for you. I still like driving.
If you ever need a break, I got your back.
I don't know. You got to come to a race after you see one of these cars run. Then you let me know if you want to get in it. I tell people all the time, sometimes you get in this car and you could take a fan out of the stands and just hold the steering wheel straight. And other times it tries to kill you. The problem is you never know which one you're going to get until you hit the throttle. But we love to have you guys come out to a race.
I'd give it a go anytime.
Bob, Tasca, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Up next is the A-list of fixed ops themselves. It's the Fixed Ops Magazine panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This is the place where you will get the best from the very best in automotive retail. I would like to humbly introduce the Fixed Ops Magazine panel, which will be moderated by our good friend, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, Ron Overs. Ron, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, thanks so much, Ted. Really looking forward to this time together.
Ron, you have put together quite a panel. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see some Tully buttons out there. So I will let you get things started, and I will step out of the way, and I'll see you towards the end.
Sounds great, Ted. Look forward to it. Thank you. Well, thanks, everyone. Listen, Fixed Ops Magazine, this is, you know what, starting, I believe, next month, we're going into our 20th year of publication. So, you know what? We survived. You know, we're just getting started and we're figuring this game out. And what we figured out really early on was find the brilliant people who are doing this job every day rather than trying to write the magazine ourselves and tell people how to do their job. And that little secret has worked really, really well for us. And so we find the best of the best and we say, hey, can you do me a favor and write an article? And we compile those and also look for great products to get advertised in the magazine. And it's worked out really, really well. So this great group that we've got together today are people that have just been all contributors to the magazine, all who have worked with us. And I look forward to just asking them a few questions and, you know, basically wind them up and let them go and have them tell me what they know about something and what's new with them. So here we are. We're in 2022. It's September, and we've gone through 263 days as I count them. We got 102 days left in the year. And tell me, you made these great plans at the end of 2021, early 2022, and said, hey, I've got a plan, and this plan's going to work. So I just am checking in with a few of you and saying, so here you are. How's it going? You got 100 days left to put this together and actually put a plus or a minus on the wall at the end of this whole thing. How's that working for you? Sarah, let's start with you since you've had a big change in life, right? With all this new responsibilities with Quantum 5. Tell me, how's it working out for you?
Yes, Ron, it's been super exciting. So in July, I was promoted to the Vice President of Sales for Quantum 5, which was a really awesome opportunity to continue to just grow our dealer client base and also our learners on the platform. We've had a lot of really exciting dealers join our amazing learning programs, and we've seen a lot of amazing results from these stores. And so it's really exciting as we get into September and the later part of this year. It's really exciting to see all the different changes and development that they've had from our learning.
And for you, what a big change, right? From even, take a year ago, where you were and, your responsibilities have grown so much. It's pretty awesome to see.
Oh, yes. And it's been exciting to evolve from just the BDC piece, which has always been my passion. BDC will always be my passion, but to add even more components to our company has just been an amazing opportunity.
Fantastic. I think, and that's a lesson also learned today with everyone who's involved with this business, that how jobs are evolving today and how opportunities are evolving today, right? We all talk about there's shortages of people out there. We're not just talking about technicians and, service advisors. The great people in every aspect of fixed operations, there's a shortage of. And so it means a great opportunity for everyone that's out there today. So it's pretty exciting. Tully, let's start right off with the man and tell me about how are your plans going for the year?
Well, I feel we're going really well. My goal was this year is let's dial in the processes and make people happy. And I'm telling you, what we've done is that we've been focusing on the KPIs that we care about. First, it's all about the hours, isn't it? Making sure we sell that capacity. but are we doing the processes right in the service drive as we write them up to the tech videos and pictures? And are we sending those quotes out? And of course, are we selling those hours? And I'm telling you, this year has been a monumental year for the Nilo company, double-digit year-over-year growth. But really, I've got people to believe the process works so they can all make more money for them and their families.
That is fantastic. Now, you hear that so many times in the sports analogy, right? The guy's just like, if they'll just buy into my system, you know, if it's football, I see Brett Favre's up there on the wall behind Shon. You know, they had a system. They have a system in place, right. You know. I play a lot of tennis and watch a lot of tennis, you know, and you know, they all have a system, a plan. I mean, they don't just hit balls back and forth across the net. You know, I mean, they're hitting it to a place for a reason. You know, there's always, you know, they're always trying to set up the next shot, get themselves ready for the you know, the next opportunity to win. Our business is much the same way, right? I mean, you got to set up the plan, you got to make it work, and this is what it's all about, and it makes great sense. You know, Tully, as you've seen, you know, we had Ed on the cover, you know. Well, Ed's been on the cover twice. Okay, let's be honest. All right, so Ed's really done a great job. You know,
he's the superstar.
Well, you know what? This started off. I flew to California when I looked at taking on this opportunity to be the publisher, and I sat on the plane next to someone who looked kind of down and out, and I must look like a preacher that day or something. I must have had a black eye on because this guy just dumped his information on me about what was going on in his life. But about 3/4 through his conversation, he goes, "Oh, I work for Beaux-Arts, and it's an amazing organization." And I'm like, "So why am I going to California to interview this dealer in San Diego? I'm going to go back to St. Augustine and meet these people at Beaux-Arts." And Ed was amazing, you know, right from the start, really showing me the ropes and how they ran their place. So for that, he's found himself twice on the cover, you know, and you know. We, you know, Sarah, who's done an absolutely amazing job with BDC and on, you know, we had a great opportunity to share her in an article. You know, Theodore, he always finds a way to get his face in front of a camera. We got him in there, and he did an amazing job for us with that article. And then, you know, want to reward people who've done a great job. You know, Les, you know, has been just a stalwart in the industry, and we got it going. But, you know, there was one guy who was kind of missing, and he will show up in September. This is just a real sneak peek preview, but those buttons on everybody, I'll tell you that, you know, this man right here is going to show up on the magazine, you know, for the September-October 2022 edition, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we got a great article. You're going to learn all of his dirty past history, you know, what jobs, where he started life, and all the things that didn't go well in his life. I mean, you got to read this article. It's going to be really great. I mean, you're going to have so much on Tully. It will be great. So
well, it's a great honor, I tell you, to share this magazine cover with all these great people. Ron, thank you. And of course, you know, my mentor Ed and Sarah on that cover, and these other people that are going to be on that cover. I cannot thank you enough. And thank you to the Fixed Ops community, and of course, Mr. Ted Ings.
Absolutely. It all starts. And we really, you know, one of the things very early on, you know, you can learn to say, you know, I'm going to get in a fight with Ted, or I'm going to be have fun with Ted. And we decided we're going to have fun together. And you know what? It's really worked out well for both of us. It's been a lot of fun to just watch this all come together and see what happens. So Shon, tell me, 263 days in to 2022, how's your life? How's it going there at the dealership?
You know, it's good. We've grown, and I think most know we went from 4 stores to 20 stores in less than 5 years, or 22 stores now. And I got to tell you, the goal of 2022 for us was to stop the firefighting. And I don't know that happened, but I can tell you that right now, I'm as of live, and you know, we're looking at numbers. We're 30% year over year, so something's gone right. But I don't know that the firefighting has stopped, because I don't think that the obstacles have changed. Again, we talk about personnel and techs, and I mean, all the way down to porters and parts people. The challenges haven't changed. I think that the grind of 2008 has returned. I think it's more of a grind than ever. But I think those that succeed, or that have succeeded through that, are succeeding again. And we're creating the next generation to do the same thing.
Fantastic. Now, that sounds exact. And you know what? I'm talking to a lot of dealers across the country. Not everybody's up 30%. You know, newsflash, there's a lot of guys that have not seen the growth that you guys are talking about. And, you know, I'm guessing it is the process, it's the plan, it's the implementing all the tools.
It's always, you know, listen, I always say this, it's process. It's doing the right things, whether whoever's there or not there. The only bad decision is no decision. Just make a decision. And at the end of the day, guys, it's a people business. It always comes back to the people. Every time. It's always about people.
Right. And Scott, great to see you back on the ground, not flying a plane today. I have a private pilot license as well, so I know about a checklist and all the things that you have to do, right, to really make sure that you is that my phone? Oh, well. But hey, Scott, so tell me a little bit about how your year's going.
It's been very good. We've had some growth in service. Our goal was to implement processes and improve processes. We've done that. I think the buzzword for this year is shortage, because there's a shortage of pretty much everything, inventory, both new and used, parts, personnel. So there's been hurdles along the way, but we've taken them in stride and cleared them and adapted and adjusted and made improvements, actually. So I think we've become leaner and meaner, I guess you'd say, because of all of it, and improved the output of the shop. We're actually producing more hours with less ROs, which is a good thing. And we have seen increases, not 30%, I don't think, but 10 to 12% increase year over year. So that's good.
That's pretty awesome. Now that's all really good stuff. Jim, you go out and see a lot of dealers, right? I mean, they're processing warranties and that type of thing. What are you hearing when you're talking to dealers about how their business is going this year?
Thank you, Ron. And before I answer, I just want to say happy anniversary. And as someone who's had a front row seat for the whole time, I'd say you haven't only survived, but you've thrived. So congratulations. Provide a great service to the industry.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think everybody sort of says the same thing slightly differently, which is things are great, but we see some storm clouds on the horizon. Yeah. You know, we all know that the inventory shortage is eventually going to work itself out. And with more new vehicle sales may come the old bad habits, such as margin compression. If we sell more new vehicles, that's going to lessen the demand for used vehicles. But maybe most important to all of us, you know, more new vehicles on the road means potentially less CP laden vehicles on the road. And we're already seeing wide reports of falling RO counts. In addition, you know, Cox recently reported that 57% of dealers said they were having a hard time finding service personnel. 80% said it was going to be a problem in the future. So a lot of, and that's just what we're seeing today. You know, there's a lot of interesting things happening in the economy, particularly with interest rates and inflation. So I think all of this is sort of giving us a picture that we've got to be sharp as we go into the future and be looking for more ways to drive more customers and maybe more important, improve the bottom line.
Fantastic. And you're right. I think I'm hearing the same things that you are about what's going on out in the industry today. And it's been, you know, quite a challenge for a lot of guys. Let's see. Let's switch it up just a little bit here. And let's talk about what challenges do you have left between now and the end of the year? You know, we're getting back to that 100 days thing. Let's stay on that theme for one more minute. And just tell me, you got 100 days to the finish line. What do you plan on doing to change it up a little bit to get to where you need to go? Maybe you've had to make some inline corrections, right? I mean, if we're taking the football analogy, you're going to run the ball, and it's not working. Okay, you're down by 20. It's time to start throwing the ball. Okay, so you know, so and I think at times we have to do that in our business, right? We got the best laid plans. We try to run those plans. The next thing you know, it's like, well, that was a good plan. However, we're going to plan B starting right now. And that's what we'll do. So Scott, tell me, what would you do for the next 100 days that's going to maybe shake your place up a little bit and make it different?
We're going to continue improving the processes and working on the culture to try to attract people here. We do have a good reputation in town, especially that this is the place to work, and I just want to continue to grow that and nurture. We're implementing some processes for mentoring programs to try and grow our own technicians too, having them work with master technicians and working out a plan of action for them to grow and come up actually from the lube rack or even a lot attendant all the way to senior master tech eventually. So we've laid out the groundwork for that, getting that started this month, and that will be the focus for the rest of the year is to get that going.
That sounds great. Ed, remember this cover? Homegrown technicians, we were talking about it last year, and the truth of it is it's so important, right? If you're just trying to go out there and steal techs, tough job, right? Really tough job.
There's only so many to steal. You have to create
right.
them.
Yeah.
You have to put new ones out there. You got to add to it.
And if you think you're a good criminal stealing, there's someone better. I just want to let you know there is someone who's better than you are, okay?
Or they got deeper
maybe
pockets.
not brighter, maybe not going to make the profit, but they can steal better than you can. Yeah. And that's a tough way to grow your business today. So, growing some technicians, Scott, great idea. Great plan for next 100 days of things to do. Ed, how about yourself? Other than trying to sell me another car, okay? I do have another Mustang coming in. I just figured I'm just going to have these things come in as fast as I can get them, and just fill the world with Mach-E's is what I'm doing. What's your plan the next 100 days?
Well, I'm expecting that Mustang for you any day now. So
fantastic.
I should see it here soon. But I think Shon's got to keep running the ball. If he's up by 30, I don't know that he needs to change his game plan yet at the moment. But great job, guys. But in 21, it was a record-breaking year for all of us. And what it really told us was, hey, that was market conditions that really drove that. We're not the heroes that look like we are. And it was our opportunity to circle back and make sure that we're training. And that's our focus ongoing this year is continue to train, continue to get better, continue to make things happen. And when you do that, and in June, we broke every record we had in the building, only to do it again in July, only to break July's numbers in August. And here we are in September looking to do that again. So it's amazing that when you do prepare for things to happen, what falls in line with it. And so training is the name of the game, not just with growing technicians, but with every aspect of the business.
For sure. Sarah, are you finding that the dealers that you're working with already are increasing, staying the same, or decreasing their training budgets for the year ahead?
Well, Ron, I think it really comes down to perception, right? Because the perception of the dealers that we're partnering with are people that know this is the time to invest in my people. While we have the opportunity when we're not scrambling, when things aren't dire, this is the great time to start investing in our people, looking at our new hires and figuring out ways that we can adapt processes, train, learn, and then of course, like to Ed's point, continue to keep cultivating our talent that's within our organization to keep them motivated, to keep them happy so that they stay on board. And so that really has been the clients that we've been seeing the most success with. They've taken that bull by the horns and they want every single opportunity for their people to really learn skills, not a word track that has been around for a decade, not, some clothes that they've practiced 14 times in a mirror. They want real skills to connect to people, to build the value that customers want to see. And they want to have that relationship. And so really, the people that we've been looking at are ready to go. They want to make sure that their people are happy. They really align with that view.
Makes great sense. I did a lot of training, mostly in the F&I departments before I got involved with the fixed operations. And first thing I would do in role playing, I'd say, okay, now show me your presentation. And many times at the end of it, I'd say, never use that presentation again. Okay. And you're at 20%, you should be at 50%. And let me explain to you what's missing in your presentation. Okay. And let's start from scratch on what's important to your customer, not what's important to you. I know you want to sell a service contract. I know you want to sell pre-scheduled maintenance. I know you want a gap policy. But what's important to the customer? And then let's get that kind of training so that you have the empathy for the customer. And then the results are just going to happen. Training is so important today. And it's great to hear that your dealers that are all in with Quantum 5 get that, you know what, it's time to take those people that you still have that haven't left your store for someone else who's, scoundreled them for a few more bucks, and you put your money into them and train them and keep them, in your store and keep them productive and content in what they do. Now that sounds great. Let's go with Shon. Shon, tell me about your training, your plans. What are you looking at the year ahead?
I think for the last 100 days for us, because we've been running at such a high peak level. I think, and I had a ton of conference calls today. I think for Q4, it's keeping the motivation. I think that we can talk about the variable side with these high commissions, with these over sticker, and where these salespeople come down off of that ledge and where they fit. I don't know that it's much different than fixed operations. We, as Ed said, we've been so busy and we produce so high. We've set paychecks so high that I think there's a comfort level that you got to be scared to hit. And for Q4, and as we said, and as Ed said, July is a record, August is a record, September, obviously, we're all shooting for the same thing, another record. How do you keep that motivation day in and day out while the grind still hits you upside the head? I mean, it's a constant day battle, and not everybody can ride the train at the speed that you're on. And that's okay too. But keeping the motivation throughout the whole team is key. And it's got to start with the leader. It always starts with the leader. If the leader wakes up bad, the whole day's bad. It always starts from the top.
Very, very good. Now, wise words for sure. Now, each one of you is a mentor, right? I mean, there's people in your place that are looking at you and say, I want to be Ed. I want to grow up to be Ed, maybe a little more hair, but I'd like to be just like Ed at the end of the day, okay? I mean, that's what's going on in your store, right? I mean, so the question I have for you is, who's your mentor today? Who in the last year have you looked to who said, you know what? I've learned from this person. This person has helped me grow my business. It's helped me become a better person in what I do. Ed, how about yourself?
So it's not any one person. I do have a couple of mentors, but really it's this network right here. It's you, Ron. It's Ted. It's Tully. It's Shon. It's Sarah. I mean, it's us communicating with each other because that's what we do. We learn from each other, and we're all trying different things out in the marketplace, and we're trying it a different way. We may be trying to get the same thing accomplished, but we're trying things differently. And we all hit on something that works for us. Well, sometimes those things works for the rest of us as well. So you see my face around because I want to learn from you guys, and I want to soak things up. My main mentor is the guy that gave me the opportunity in this business, and that's Charlie Waters. And we still communicate every 2-3 times a week to go back and forth with ideas for him, ideas for me. But I have a lot of mentors, and it's all you guys. So thank you.
Fantastic. How about you, Scott? Who do you turn to when you're trying to review what you're doing? Or
I'd have to kind of agree with Ed. It's not just one person. And this Fixed Ops Roundtable, it's been great. The Fixed Ops magazine, so much information in that that you can learn. And just so many people that have helped me through the years. I worked at Sewell, in the Sewell organization for a long time. So I'd say one of the top guys for me was Carl Sewell. And, he really taught me a lot about customer service and how to treat people and how to treat your employees and just how to create a good culture and everything. So just picking one person, it would be Carl Sewell, but you guys like Ed, with his mobile service and all the stuff that he does, and Sarah, all she's doing for Quantum 5, and then Tully and Shon and Jim and you, Ron. It's just a wealth of information, and I just love to be here and soak it all in, honestly.
It is. It's, the most fun I have in this whole job is because I get, I ask people to write articles, and I get like 20, 30 of them per issue, and we get 10 of them stuffed in the magazine. But I read 30 articles from people that gave me their best effort of what they want to tell people like yourself, what's working for them, or what you need to consider in your business. And that is so fun because at the end of the day, you're just getting a little sharper. You're understanding the business a little bit better. You're getting their perspective on it. Even if they're an advertiser, who's just trying to sell their wares and they're like, hey, I got this great thing you all need to have. And you say, yeah, prove it to me, you know, in 1,000 words or less, okay, in some sort of English, show me that, you know what you're talking about. And it's fun to really get someone to boil their thoughts down and say, what's really important to you and how do you make that work? So that can be a lot of fun. It really can, to really just start learning from each other. Shon, do you have a mentor, someone you work with?
You know, I don't want to jump on because listen, everybody who's on this panel, obviously, I talked to Sarah, and I'm very fortunate enough that I got to meet Tully and Ed and AD this year, and I sought Ed out and got to see him speak. And you know, I don't know that anybody, and I'm not saying this because this is his panel, and obviously, Ron, you and I have developed a relationship.
Sure.
You know, guys, for those that don't know, I've developed a relationship off air with Ted Ings, and I'm not saying that just because it's his panel. I probably talk to Ed 2 or 3 times a week. I call it my Dr. Phil moment with Ted, but you know, Ted knows the business. Ted knows fixed operations, and it's not because he's trying to sell spots. It's not because he's trying to fill spots. As the business changed, Ted has changed too. So I don't take anything away from Ed or Tully or Sarah or anybody that I talk to on a regular basis, and they've helped me a ton, guys. Ted, including as soon as this morning, I talk to Ted very often, and Ted has become a good friend, a good mentor, and a good leader for myself, to be very honest.
I wonder how Ted gets anything done, because he's a therapist
Right.
for a lot of us. I
Yes.
mean, you know, we call him up and we talk to him all the time, and it's like, you know, Ted, do you ever how do you get all this stuff done? You got like 2,000 people coming to your roundtables, and who does all this work? Because you're talking to me all the time, you know, or somebody else.
When I start, I always said, "You got a minute?" He goes, "Always got a minute for you, Shon." And he's never told me no. Let's put it that way.
It's great. He's really, really awesome. There's no question about it. Hey, one last final question. Off-site meetings. Where has been the best place you've gone where you've actually had a good meeting and it was a great location? Okay. I mean, I've had some great meetings in Hawaii, had some great meetings in the Turks and Caicos Islands. I don't really remember a lot of work getting done, but I had a great time there. But where have you gone that's actually been a great location for an off-site meeting where you really grew the morale of everyone there, and it was a fun place to be? Jim, how about yourself?
It's a great question. You know, I would have to say that that I wouldn't want to go too far. I wouldn't want to take people too far, because the farther it is, the longer the whole thing takes. So I would be local. I'd probably pick New Orleans, not NADA necessarily, but when you're there outside of Mardi Gras, the combination of, you know, you can get some work done, but the food that's available, the music, the architecture, you know, there's a little bit of something for everybody. So that'd be my pick.
Sarah, other than an equestrian event, okay, where would you suggest that we would all go to have a great time?
Well, I'm a Georgia girl originally, so I would pick Sea Island, the Cloister, as my venue of choice. And I've actually been to both business meetings and leisure there. And so it is a phenomenal place that has really intimate conference room options. The food is fantastic. You can't get any better than being right there on the beach. And it's a very family friendly environment. So if there's, you know, me, I'm a mom, and that's sometimes an important decision that sometimes I have to make about a conference is, well, I might have to bring husband and kiddos along. So is it something that they can enjoy while I'm grinding away?
Tully, you've been working all the time. You don't get to go anywhere. You're always stuck in the office. But Ed, on the other hand, okay, traveled from like San Diego to the North Pole, you know, last year. And, you know, Ted, is there any one place that you would suggest was a good place to go?
So for me, what a lot of people don't know about me is I'm a collector of bourbon or brown water. It doesn't have to be bourbon. It could be scotch. It could be whatever. And I attend a mastermind session in Louisville. So I always tie a few days onto that for the Bourbon Trail. So there's great people there. There's always good content. There's people from both sides of the business, from the variable side, from the fixed side. So from that mastermind session, that's been a good destination for sure.
Fantastic. Now that sounds great. Shon, how about you?
For me, and as crazy as it sounds, I started as a negative anywhere but Vegas. And I don't mean to be negative, but everything is so distracting in Vegas. And to the point of New Orleans, yes, I love it. My probably best memories have obviously been, because I'm an old Chrysler guy, I have 28 years. I always like Dallas, Texas. I like Dallas. It's easy to get to. You can get there. You can get out. There's plenty to see in Uptown. There's a dry section, obviously not for Ed, but there's a dry section for the non-brown water. And then there's another side to Dallas too. I've always been a Dallas, Texas guy. Love Dallas, Texas. Now, without saying, if I had a first choice, it might be Lambeau. I don't know if you can guess that or not. But for those that don't know, you can do weddings at Lambeau. You can do meetings at Lambeau. You can do a lot of things at Lambeau. You just put it out there. There's things other than football at Lambeau Field.
Hard to believe, Shon.
I know,
hard to
right?
believe that you would go there for anything other than memorabilia and maybe
right?
football.
That's right.
Unbelievable. Well, let's see if we can pull Ted back into the room and tell him that we've had a lot of fun here together today. And I really appreciate all of you, your time together. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Ron, everybody here on this panel is a great friend. I want to say a special thanks today to Jim Roche. First time here on the Fixed Ops Magazine panel. I did not know Jim Roche until just maybe a couple years ago. I knew of Jim. I read books that he had written. Okay, he's a published author. The work he has done with things that we use every day, like X Time, Kelly Blue Book. So I've thought the world of him. And Ron, I kind of knew that the Fixed Ops events, when they started, growing just a couple years ago, were gaining some traction when we were honored to have Jim Roche actually appear on this event. So, Jim, I want to thank you today for being with us here on this panel and for placing us here today.
You're very kind, Ted. Thank you. I'm not sure that's all deserved, but what a great event this was. What great work you're doing. Thank you, and to all the panelists. I look forward to maybe meeting everybody in person in where is NADA going to be, Shon?
Lambeau Field.
I tell you, Jim, he makes me want to go to Wisconsin, right, to see that Lambeau Field, and some great history there, right, with Coach Lombardi and the Packers. But everybody on this panel, Sarah, has a great attitude, and that's one of the things that I think stands out. And going back to some of the things that Shon said, and I'm not sure all that's deserved either. I do feel that the folks who are here today on this panel, we're all operating on a wavelength where, I think I know kind of what Ed is thinking. Maybe he knows what I'm thinking, and Tully and Sarah and Scott and Ron. And, there's a certain magic to some of the things that we're doing, and we're all kind of, operating in that vibe. So, I really appreciate all that you have done for Fixed Ops. And Ron, the idea of putting people like this on the cover, people like us on the cover of the magazine, has put a face to Fixed Ops, so that when we meet Ed Roberts, when we meet a Sarah Vantine, when we meet now a Tully Williams, this is Fixed Ops right here. This is where it's at. And this is a huge part of the business. And I want to, thank every one of you for your friendship and all you do for our community. And all of you have gone way out of your way, to be on panels and to, be involved in discussions. And so I'm very, very grateful to all of you for all that you do.
Sure.
Thank you, Ted.
Well, thank you, Ted, for sure.
And Ron, the magazine, just amazing what you're doing there. It's not only available in print, with a very high quality, the articles that you just talked about, those 10 that make it into the magazine, but you're online as well. And, very well respected. And I hear about it every single day, Fixed Ops Magazine. So congratulations to you, Ron, on all this success that you're having.
Thank you, Ted. It's an honor to do this. It's really been a lot of fun just to meet the personalities, these characters here. I mean, wow. You learn from each and every one. It's really been a lot of fun. It really has. It's been great.
So I want to thank everybody on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Ron Overs, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine. Scott Gregg at Tucson Subaru. Scott, thanks so much for all you do for our industry. Ed Roberts, amazing, just what you do, right, Ed? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great interaction on all the roundtables. Sarah Vantine, thank you. We've learned so much from you, Sarah, and we continue to learn. So thank you for elevating our industry in so many ways. Shon Kingrey, amazing work.
Thank you,
You've
sir.
got so many people who look up to you, and rightfully so. Tully, we met many years ago in Northern California, and just really proud of all you are doing for the industry today. Jim Roche, again, thank you so much for all you do for our industry and more. And Ron Overs, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine. Everybody, the Fixed Ops Magazine A-list panel here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Do you have a great product you want to get in front of auto dealers across the country, and specifically their fixed ops departments? You know, their service, parts, and body shop. For over 15 years, Fixed Ops Magazine has been putting service-related products like yours in front of franchise auto dealers across the country. There simply is no better way to reach every dealer in the USA all at once. Hi, I'm Ron, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, which is both a digital at fixedopsmag.com and print magazine that reaches out to over 38,000 subscribers who influence what products are purchased in the over 16,000 dealers across the country. Fixed Ops Magazine may even publish your article about a topic you are an expert and have a real passion for in this industry. Every article has the author's contact info so they can reach you. Write an article, run an ad, and an e-blast. We call that our bundle for success. You won't believe how great a deal it is. So to get started, call, text, or email me and I'll tell you more. We are 100% devoted to the franchise stores, so we don't waste your time or money. We are laser focused on your prospects. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today. www.fixedopsmag.com. Ron at fixedopsmag.com, 714-803-5476. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today.
Now listen here, see? We'd like to welcome you to the golden age of fixed ops, see? We're all dolled up for the Fixed Ops Roundtable Roaring 20s event.
Don't get caught ironing your shoelaces. Up next is the big shot, Mike Maroone.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Mike Maroone is one of the best known and one of the most highly regarded automotive leaders in our time. He and his family are now in their 3rd generation in the retail automotive business, where Mike started out at his family's Ford dealership in Western New York, then becoming the general manager of the first Maroone dealership in South Florida. The Maroone Automotive Group would grow to 9 dealerships before merging with AutoNation in 1997, where Mike became the key architect and served as president and chief operating officer until 2015. Today, Mike Maroone leads his family of dealerships, which consists of retail outlets in Colorado and Florida. Mike, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be part of your roundtable and look forward to both sharing some of our thoughts, but learning from some of your other presenters.
Mike, I got to tell you, I asked you, and I'm so grateful to have you back by popular demand. A lot of folks really loved the segment that we did together last year, and I'm really humbled to have you as part of the event. And I think you've got some great insights. So if you don't mind, in the last 2.5 years, once again, dealers have proven themselves to be extremely resilient. What would you say are some of the positive takeaways that you can say our industry's had?
Ted, I think the biggest takeaway is we've learned that we have to adapt and flex. This retail environment is so different. We've moved to factory orders and selling incoming units and being able to operate on very low inventories. It's a total shift, especially for the high volume domestic stores. Some of the import stores dealt with this kind of stuff years ago, but it's new to those of us on the domestic side. I think secondly, learning to acquire used vehicles privately and outside the auction channel was really important. And it's been one of the keys to our success. And finally, I mean, just reintroducing to every retailer the value of fixed operations, that gross margin, the retention opportunity. So those three things are really what come to mind. And it's been a great chapter for auto retail. Everyone knows the profits are strong, everybody's energized, but most importantly, we've learned to adapt and flex into a totally different environment.
I don't ever remember even hearing about an environment like this in the past. You mentioned fixed ops, Mike. What do you think? How important will service, parts, body shop, how important will that be to the success of dealerships moving forward?
I think it's going to be more important than ever. There's two key components here. One is it's the best way to retain guests. And just to refresh your memory, we don't have customers, we have guests. And guest retention really occurs, certainly it occurs in the sales transaction, but it's reinforced in the service transaction. And creating that trust is essential to repeat purchasing and building our customer base. The second piece is service is where the gross margin is, and the downstream gross generated post-sale is critical to the dealership. So first of all, service is not easy to execute, but it's essential to building a viable business.
Yeah, I agree so much. I have heard you say in some interviews that I've seen where you spoke about the hybrid model for our industry as we move into the near future for vehicle sales. Guests still want to come in and they want to see and they want to drive the vehicle, but how do you see that playing out and evolving for our industry in the future?
Well, Ted, it's been a fascinating learning to watch. I mean, for many years, we focused on having our frontline displays being the thing that attracted guests in. Today, the frontline display has got so little impact on the guest experience. People search, people research, they do all kinds of things online, and then they pivot. Some come into the stores to shop, some want to go through an online experience, and our job is to be able to provide great information, make sure they can get consistent information regardless of channel, and be able to serve people in a totally different way. We've got huge online sellers like Carvana and others. And then you've got very traditional retailers. And I think guests are somewhere in the middle. A lot of people will go test drive at a local dealership and then search inventory over a much broader geography. We've got to be patient with those folks and we've got to provide a value in the experience, whether it's online or offline. I think it's exciting, but I don't think you can typecast how our guests want to shop. We're just going to have to be prepared to fulfill either way. And I like it. I think it's fun.
And if you don't mind, you've had a front row seat on both the electronic side with guests shopping online for their vehicle, and now, as I mentioned, the hybrid model. You've had a fascinating role in all of this. So,
well, I'm blessed to have a perspective from several different angles, and it's well known that I serve as the lead independent director at Carvana. So I get insights into how they manage traffic, how they fulfill, how their systems work, how their logistics work. And at the same time, I come back in my world where I don't necessarily have those same resources, but I have guests that have very high expectations. So we spend a lot of time training. We work really hard on fulfilling the guests' needs, regardless of what their point of entry is or how they want to be treated. It's a fun time.
You mentioned expectations, and you're right. Our industry is, we've got expectations on the part of the guest and as part of the dealer network as well. And Mike, with all the talk, especially lately, about EVs, electric vehicles, factory to direct online sales, we've heard Jim Farley talking about it over at Ford. A lot of dealers, the chatter has been, and you've seen it as well online, that some dealers feel that maybe they're going to be at risk of being cut out of that sales process that's been in place for 100 some years. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly share concerns that dealers have expressed. I also have a lot of confidence that the franchise system has added value for many, many, many years. And to extrapolate out what Tesla and Rivian have done, which are very different models, into today's existing OEM dealer relationships it's really an apple and an orange. Tesla came out, and you have to admire Elon. He's an incredible entrepreneur, but he came in an environment where there was literally no competition. He funded his company and drove certain levels of profitability by selling credits to OEMs. It wasn't a typical launch. Rivian's got a different situation. Rivian's got 100,000 orders from Amazon and a huge shareholder in Amazon. So their situation's different. I am concerned when I see some of the OEMs going outside the country and creating more direct relationships. I think it's a big mistake. I think they totally ignore the value of the service end of the business. They ignore the value that dealers have provided for over 100 years. And I hope that they don't try and destroy that. The thing that's most concerning on EVs to me, Ted, is EVs are really just a different powertrain. People talk about we need to be prepared for this huge change in the industry. It's just a powertrain, just like an internal combustion engine, just like a hybrid performance. Now it's an electric vehicle. I don't think we need to tip the world upside down, but I think we do have to be ready to adapt, make sure our people are trained, make sure our facilities are ready. But I am hoping we don't move to a direct sales model, and I think it would be a huge mistake.
In your opinion, what do you think? Is this all about copying that Tesla model? And would that be a smart thing for OEMs to do? You know, given the fact, like you mentioned, that the dealers are local, and as we said, the dealers have proven resilient time and time again.
Ted, every model's got flaws. The reason everybody focuses on Tesla is they have a very high market capitalization. Growth companies have high market caps. They don't always stay high. And I believe that the OEMs have been frustrated for many years at very low price earnings ratios. And I think they're doing the things they need to do to try and gain more market share, make the right investments in technology and product. And I admire what they're doing, but you can't buy a high growth market share out of a traditional business, or a high growth valuation out of a traditional business. So I think it's tempting, but I think you also have to look at the Tesla model, where there's quality issues and there's huge parts and service issues. And I believe the service network continues to be one of the key ingredients that support the existing franchise system. I also believe that there should be pressure on retailers to improve their guest experience, to be more transparent, and to do the things that meet modern customers' needs, not run old car guy ways.
I agree with you. I met with a dealer yesterday, and he mentioned to me that his OEM, who's been talking about that Tesla model in service and parts leaves a lot to be desired. They're not as focused on the guest as the dealers who've now built these processes over many, many years. So he sees it as an opportunity in what's coming with EVs.
We have to respect the competition, but I think we've got to continue to fine tune our model and get better at what we do. And I think we can have some level of control.
Speaking of control, one thing or many things that the dealers can't control are some of the things that you mentioned a little bit earlier. The chip shortage, gas prices this year, interest rates, a lot of things are in flux. What do you think, what should dealers be focused on right now?
I think we should be focused on acquiring, reconditioning, merchandising, and turning used car inventories. I think we've got to continue to hone our skills on selling incoming new and turning our new vehicle inventories very, very quickly. And we've got to keep working in service to attract more and better technicians, more and better service consultants, and to work very hard to take all these software tools that are available and integrate them into our dealership to create a much higher value experience than we have traditionally. As you said, there are many things outside our control. I think there's a lot inside our control, and I'm excited about continuing to invest in the business and to push our team to a much higher level of performance.
One of the things that I've seen here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, in Mike, in many of the panels that we brought together, we decided a while back that some of the panels that we should hear from should just be technicians and hear from their point of view, because they've been the unsung heroes, if you will. And as you mentioned, service is such a big driver at what happens at the dealership level. And one of the things that we've learned is that what attracts technicians and what helps retain them is the dealership culture. It's not just the money. And that's really opened a lot of eyes. And now we're hearing that phrase of dealership culture proving to be a major driver, and a lot of folks are talking about it. You have built a great culture, both at your dealerships, earlier at AutoNation. What made you focus on the culture so early?
I think it starts with a couple basic premises, Ted. First of all, we want to be a great place to work and a great place to shop. And I know that sounds very simple, but if you accomplish both of those things, the culture comes with it. We call ours a culture of caring, where it starts with our associates caring for each other and doing different things to help people that may be having a tough day or have a tough guest in front of them. We then try and extend that culture into our guests to say, your needs and solving your problems now becomes our challenge and our obligation. And we want to do it in the most caring way. And I've been brought up by, when I brought up by my dad, who was a great retailer, he always talked about showing empathy to the guests, showing empathy to your associates, putting other people first in front of yourselves. And that's what makes a great place to work and a great place to shop. And I'm in a number of other business outside of automotive, and I have the same feeling in every business about creating this culture of caring, and it's worked very well for us.
Yeah, so important. One of the things that we're also hearing here at the Roundtable is the growing interest in mobile service, in being able to go to the customer and perform a lot of these services, some of the more basic ones, without having to come to the dealership. Mobile service. Brian Benstock, prior to the pandemic, shared with us what he was doing on service pickup and delivery. And mobile service has now risen from what we see to some of the top interest. Of course, Tesla does that as well. I know Ford Motor Company's in it in a big way. What are your thoughts on mobile service?
Well, first of all, I think it's aspirational. I think it's something that is good for guests. And if it's good for guests, we better work at it and build that capability. But I would tell you, it's very hard to execute. You already know, labor, the vehicles are complex. You don't always know what you need in terms of parts. You don't have all your tools with you. Yes, these mobile vans are outfitted for very basic things, but it's hard. It's also hard to find and motivate technicians who are accustomed to working in flat rate and are accustomed to having big parts availability and all the special tools around them. It's hard to hire, train, motivate, and retain those technicians. With that said, if that's what guests value, we're just going to have to figure it out. So we're testing it in one store. It's not easy to get off the ground, but I do think it's worth testing. I would also offer that in the EVs, in the ability for the over-the-air improvements and updates in software, it could get easier and easier. So I don't want to be negative on mobile. I'm just telling you it's hard. I think pickup and delivery is another thing that is very appealing to some guests. Some don't care for it. And we've got to get better at that. And that's hard to do too. It's very labor intensive. But those are capabilities that we need to develop. I'm excited about doing that. And I think if that's what the guests want, then that's what they ought to have.
It's amazing, isn't it? How our business continues to evolve, and those guest expectations are the driving factor in all. Mike, this year we're hearing again, we haven't heard for a while about the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. Now we see in the headlines with proposals, different possible regulations for car dealership price advertising, even F&I disclosures. What are your thoughts on that? And ultimately, is that good for our industry?
Well, I think you have to start with the positive. And the positive is transparency and compliance with existing law is very, very important. And it should be a foundational component of every business we operate. The reality of it is every single state has laws in effect that in many cases aren't being enforced, especially on advertising violations. There's so many of them, it's very difficult to enforce. Do we need the FTC to come in and drive that? I personally don't think so. But if it makes the industry more consistent, more compliance, then I welcome it. Where I struggle is when they try and dictate which products they think have value. I think that is absurd. It's a gross overreach for them to say this product shouldn't be sold, this product should be sold. I don't think that's the role of the FTC. I'd say lastly, one of the things that bothers me as a citizen of the US is how the FTC's emphasis seems to roll with political control. I kind of would prefer the FTC to be a professional organization that had consistency through administrations. That may be wishful thinking, but I hate to see it flip-flop based on who's in office at what period of time. But if I go back again to the basics, transparency and compliance are important. And those retailers that skirt the state laws and ignore some of the things that are good basic principles, I think put the entire industry at risk.
Great points. Super points. Finally, last question, Mike, for today. Looking out over the horizon, here we are in September, going into the last part of 2022, and then going into 2023. A lot of dealers, a lot of managers, retailers watching today. What advice would you have for them, for their business looking forward? Fixed ops is the focus, obviously, service and parts, but any recommendations from Mike Maroone for our audience?
Ted, I'd say my recommendation would be, if you believe in the business and believe the business has a great future, which I do, you've got to continue to invest in the business. You've got to invest in your people. You've got to develop people. That's one of the primary things we do. We continue to try and develop and promote and train people internally, but you've also got to invest in your facilities. You've got to invest in your capabilities. And when you stop investing, you're going to find yourself really trailing the rest of the inventory, or not the inventory, the industry, excuse me. So I think investing in the business is really important. And I think staying light on your feet and staying nimble, and regardless of what comes at us, whether it's a potential recession, a big change to EVs, it still gets back to how do we treat our guests, and what experience do we provide post-sale that could allow us to retain guests and have a great long-term relationship. So those investments are critical, and the things that we're doing today, we continue to be very excited about auto retail.
Mike Maroone, great to hear it from you from the top. Great advice. Mike, thank you for your insights. And on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, thank you so much for this today.
Ted, I'm honored to be part of your Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thanks for having me.
Mike Maroone here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Take a moment now to scan the QR code on your screen to vote for the Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the end of day 3. Remember, every vote counts, so make sure to vote for the 5 speakers or panelists whom you think are the most dashing speakers on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And don't forget, you can only vote once. As Frank Sinatra says, fly me to the moon. Our next speaker is out of this world. It's Owen Moon from Fixed Ops Digital.
Owen Moon is the CEO of Fixed Ops Digital, and he is part of the trendsetters in fixed ops that are putting and shining a new light on the opportunities in service and parts and being able to offer that at your dealerships. Owen Moon, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted, how you doing? Great to be back. I know it's been a little bit, but excited to be back today. Great show so far.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Now, you're coming to us from somewhere special because I have not seen this look before, Owen Moon.
Yeah, my brand new studio, still a work in progress, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Super excited for it. Obviously, when COVID hit, I spent a lot of time working out of my house, and just felt like it was time to kind of change things up. So, been great coming here and doing interviews and podcasts and things out of here, and more to come. So.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to have a lot of content coming our way from Fixed Ops Digital. So we are excited to see that. Owen, we are excited to hear what you've got to share with us today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks. Let me get my screen going here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. As Ted said, I'm the CEO of Fixed Ops Digital. We're Automotive's premier service and marketing technology company. And we're super excited for what we're doing to help our dealerships. We just went over 750 dealerships throughout the nation, also up in Canada. And so today what I want to talk a little bit about is what I'm calling connectivity and how it can power your online service marketing. So I can't get excited as Tully does, but I tried here a little bit. Let's be honest, right? Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants to pay for service. Why do I say that, right? Because as you guys know, and most of you guys are in the trenches that are on this show today, or watching either or participating, you're in the trenches every day, and you know that when a customer comes in to work with you, it's usually a friction point, right? They're coming in because they have a problem, and unfortunately, that problem didn't start that day. That problem probably started a week ago, 2 weeks ago, heck, maybe even a month or two ago, and it's finally gotten to the point that they have to get something done with it. Right. So you're always in a position to talk to a customer when they're not happy, right? When there's something wrong and now they're looking for you to solve that problem. Why do I bring that up? Because there's some things that I think you can do to really help, with that whole first interaction with the customer, right? So the first thing that I would say is, how do we make the service experience better? So number one is always communication, right? You want to make sure that you're communicating with that customer in a manner that is non-confrontational, that's soothing, that just basically gives them a positive first interaction with your dealership. Next thing is set expectations, right? And then within that is meet expectations. We want to make sure that, hey, we're going to let customers know exactly what's going to happen, and then obviously meet those expectations once you set them. And then the last thing is, let's fix the customer issue the first time. Now, the reason why I bring these four up is I see a lot of changes in how customers are behaving, right? Customers are constantly giving bad reviews, bad CSI scores, things like that. And it's usually one of these four things. We either aren't communicating, we either aren't setting the expectations of what's going to happen during their visit that day. Maybe we're not even meeting those expectations, which obviously maybe we do deserve a bad review at that point. And obviously we want to make sure we fix the customer's problem the first time. Like I said, it's not their first time they've had this issue, and now they're turning around and they're hoping that we can help solve that. Here's the thing. All of this happens when you're at the dealership. So it's while the customer is there. Well, obviously we're a marketing firm, so we always look at things from a little different lens. We look at things from a marketing lens. So what are some of the things that we could do to help maybe alleviate some of that friction before that customer gets to your dealership, right? So the first thing that we talk about, and I've talked about this a lot, is we want to create an environment on your website where we're providing customers with information, education, and recommendations about the different services that your dealership offers prior to them getting there. If customers know what to expect before they actually get to the dealership, it goes a long way in how those communication engagements happen with those customers and with your dealership. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? What can you do? Well, the first thing you should do is make sure that you're marketing more services on your website. We call it with our clients the service menu page. The reason why is that we've taken the specials page and we've brought it from just, hey, a $10 off coupon or a 10% off coupon on something, and we've moved it more into what we call a menu style page. It's really focusing on more services, right? General services like oil changes, tire rotations, batteries, all the way to late ownership services, which could be tires, brakes, transmissions, anything that's going to be a little bit higher RO, it's going to cost a little more money. These are definitely services that we want to get out on your website and make sure that we're giving customers information about that. The next thing that I want to talk about is really kind of ties into this as well, but it's talking about highlighting more of those services, but also making sure that you're, having pricing transparency. gone are the days of people looking for $10 off coupons. I'm not saying they want to overspend on service. Obviously, nobody wants to do that.
Right.
But with lack of information, customers will move on to find the information they're looking for. So if you have a $10 off an oil change coupon on your website, chances are that customer doesn't know what that means. I mean, are you twice as expensive and now you're $10 off? That's still not a value to the customer. So what we talk about all the time is pricing transparency. More times than not, unless it's a spend and save or something along those lines that warrants a little different strategy, we want to make sure that we're showcasing price. As you can see here, the coupon here, or the offer here on the left, this 4-wheel alignment, is $129.95, where the one on the right is 10% off a service. With big data, with a lot of customers, 750 plus customers, we get a lot of big data. And one thing that we really found was that 30% on average is the increase in engagements that we see with our dealers when they put a price over a discount or a percentage off. So what is an engagement? Like, what does that mean, right? 30% increase engagements. Okay, big deal, Owen. What does that mean? Well, engagements lead to appointments, right? So some of the engagements that we really focus on are schedule service, click to call, save to phone, obviously, kind of working with that mobile customer. So instead of printing coupons, they're actually saving offers into their phone. And then learn more. Learn more is sort of the online service shopping funnel that we've created, where if a customer comes on your website and they're looking for a 4-wheel alignment, but they don't know that much about it, we can actually kind of use the content that we build for that alignment to let customers dive a little deeper into that particular service. All of this is what builds trust, right? All of this is what gives your dealership the authority in the market. And that's going to go a long ways when they're actually at your store, ready to have to do that service or to work with your service team. And the last thing I want to talk about is really the most important, and it's something that we've really dove deep into, and we're excited about where we're going with this. And that is to create consistency across multiple digital channels. What do I mean by that? Well, let's look at the sales side as sort of the benchmark, right? When we created what they call an inventory management software, a lot of different companies out there are doing this. It really changed how dealerships advertise for variable marketing, right? For their vehicle side, the sales side of the business. Because what ended up happening now is you were able to move inventory across different platforms. Imagine having to take 300 used cars, manually download them into your website, and then turning around and trying to manually download them onto a third-party site like cars.com, or manually trying to get them into to CARFAX. None of that wouldn't happen. So inventory management really changed the game when it came to how dealerships advertise their sales side of the business, right? You can now move inventory from your website to cars.com, to CARFAX, even Google and social media. It makes it a lot easier to be able to advertise. So it completely changed how dealerships use digital marketing to advertise their vehicles. Well, we're taking that same strategy or that same problem, and we're meeting it head on with our specials management software. We call it Drive Service Specials, but what it's basically doing is it's allowing us to be able to push information around the internet to make sure that we can expand into other areas. So for example, let's say you're advertising 12, 15, maybe 18 services on your website. We can now push that to companies like Sunbit and Dignify and work with them to make sure that customers know that they can use repair financing, even Xtime or what some of the other service schedulers out there. But most importantly, it allows us to be able to also push that information to digital marketing platforms like Google, Facebook, even Instagram. So the nice thing about that is that it also creates consistency, right? And here's what I mean. Let's say, for example, we were advertising a $39.95 oil change on Facebook. What we would want is we would want that customer to engage with that ad and then come over to the website, and there they see that exact same $39.95 oil change. Take it a step further, and if they decided they wanted to schedule service, we would want them to be able to go into the scheduler and also see that service for $39.95. it is more important than ever on the service side of the business to have pricing consistency. The reason why is because, again, taking it to the beginning of what I was talking about, there's a lot of friction. And the last thing you want to do is create more friction by having a 10% off coupon on Facebook, a $39.95 oil change on your website, and a $59.95 oil change in your scheduler. All that's going to do is continue to create friction with your customer, and it will not build trust. And, ultimately it might allow them to leave and move to a different company, whether it's a Jiffy Lube or maybe another dealership down the road. So ultimately, that's what we're trying to accomplish is as we are building out our software and we're continuing to work with more dealers, this is becoming a much bigger part of our strategy, as well as the strategy of the customers. And they're seeing the results. They're seeing increase in ROs. They're seeing more appointments. And more importantly, they're seeing higher dollar amounts. They're seeing customer pay revenue increase, across the board. So, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully you guys are taking some of this and applying it into your strategies. Obviously, if you need help, we're always here to help you guys as well. So with that, Ted, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Owen, I've got to tell you that Fixed Ops Digital, your stuff is beautiful. I mean, the look, the feel of everything you've got going there. Over 750 dealers use Fixed Ops Digital. So many here at the Roundtable, and the level of professionalism, you've just elevated the whole game. You got us looking at putting service and parts online when nobody was even thinking of that. And one more word I want to add is the word transparency. The fact that you've got the $39.90 or whatever the price is going to be of that oil change online. And yes, like you said, the consistency all the way across. That's so important because being transparent with the consumer is really important.
Yeah, and Ted, you would know more than anybody, in a lot of cases, because that's what you guys train on, right? When you guys go into the stores, you're training on, how to work with those customers and that type of thing. And I see more. I mean, let's be honest, in the economy that we're living in, customers are volatile. They're not happy. They're, it's more volatility than I've ever seen. And so, why not help on the front end with marketing? And I know that's, we're the front end, right? We're the start of this relationship with customers. Yep. Obviously, you've got to carry that all the way through into the service lounge, into the service bays, and then ultimately, when you're finished, with that service or with that, resolving that issue that customer has. But we're just trying to do our part. That's why we're constantly thinking outside the box and trying to figure out ways to, really help our dealerships, market that side of the business. So.
And everybody, Fixed Ops Digital provides you all the tools and the integrations. You just saw a couple examples like the Sunbit integration, things that are so critical to being able to let your customers know that you've got available at your dealership. So consumers are starting the process online. You need to be online. You need to speak with Owen Moon at Fixed Ops Digital. Owen, what is the best way for our audience, if they're not already a client of yours, to reach out with their questions?
Yeah, you can email me directly, owen@fixedopsdigital.com. My direct cell phone is 605-376-0195. And you can text me, call me. I'm always available. I spend most of my life either on email or on this phone. So I'm pretty used to it. So yeah, give me a shout. I mean, even if just to ask a question, get a little information, we'd love to at least start that conversation. We really pride ourselves as being a good partner for our dealers. And, that's why we have, low churn and we really feel like, we're leading the charge here and we're going to continue to do so. So.
They are a great partner, everybody, the premier marketing agency for Fixed Ops. Owen Moon, the CEO of Fixed Ops Digital, with us here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted.
is to make a large impact to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to help put an end to blood cancers. Take a moment, if you haven't already, to scan our Fixed Ops Cares QR code and share it with your peers. We appreciate everyone's support of such an incredible cause.
Kids, they're just different than us. They have no inhibitions, consider silverware optional, and are way more flexible. And when kids get really sick, they're different than us too. That's why over 3 years ago, we dared to dream bigger when it comes to treating young people. Rethinking existing approaches that were causing devastating short-term complications and lifelong side effects. We created a children's initiative with the goal of transforming treatment and care through advocacy, education, and the largest global clinical trial for kids with blood cancer. It's a giant leap for little patients. For the first time, a specific treatment can be matched to a specific type of cancer in a specific child. We want to inspire more and more people to aim higher and think differently about children's blood cancer. So starting now, the Children's Initiative will be known as the Dare to Dream Project, expanding our efforts beyond families directly impacted by blood cancer to tell a much bigger story to a much broader audience. A simple message that kids are different, and finally, their cancer treatment will be too. It's a global effort that invites others to dare to dream with us as we work to raise $175 million. What started as an idea is becoming a movement, proven that amazing things happen if we just dare to dream. The Dare to Dream Project from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, transforming treatment and care for kids with blood cancer.
Up next is the bee's knees of BDC, Sarah Vantine from Quantum 5.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It is a great honor to welcome back to the conference an amazing friend of the Fixed Ops community. It is Sarah Vantine, who is the Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5. Sarah, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. Congratulations, Sarah, to you on the recent move to Vice President and to Quantum 5 and all the success that you're having in the market.
Thank you so much. It's been an exciting challenge, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to get to impact so many dealers.
You're doing a lot in that space. The company is growing. I see Quantum everywhere. Dave O'Brien is a big part of the show, as you know, as well. And I got to tell you that there's so much happening in your space, and folks who want to do a lot of the things that you have done throughout your career. And, you know, you really speak with authority because you've got that retail background, Sarah. And I can't tell you that enough, that, you know, that's highly respected. Because, you know, you've earned everything that you're able to implement now at Quantum 5.
Oh, yes. It's, you know, coming from the dealerships, coming from retail, it's been really, really helpful as we're crafting the learning and as we're crafting the programs, and especially the results, because we really want to focus on the things that dealers are passionate about and the things that are going to impact their bottom line the most.
So let's talk about that. What's on your plate right now? You know, I know Quantum 5 is focused on dealers. You've got some really unique things that you've brought to the marketplace that are very timely, and you're delivering some strong results. So, you know, let's start with that.
Sure. Well, you know, to dive right into it, one of the awesome things about Quantum 5 has really been, of course, the foundation of our technology. So our technology is built on an amazing platform that allows us to really have the customization to impact dealerships with real scenarios that are going to resonate with their learners. The best part about it is that the amount of content that we create, it's not going to be things that dealers are going to have a stagnant video library that's going to age out after 6 months. all of our content is refreshed every 90 days. And so all of the things that we are feeding to our learners are going to be real time, real things that are going to impact the stuff that they're seeing in the dealership. And that's so important because, as you know, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of changes to what automotive has had. And so being able to have the foundation where we have a technology paired with the human side, the people that are going to support the learners, our community team that's going to go and have the conversations with the dealerships to really drive the results that they want to see. It just makes for a perfect marriage between technology and people.
And I think that's what Quantum does best. You know, you've merged the technology with the focus on people. I hear that everywhere now. And you're doing it in a modern way. Like you said, it's not that aging video library, you know, that's sitting on the shelf. You've got things in people's hands, you know, on their smart devices that engages them, engages the learner. And you've also started, you've got me saying that learner now, you've started this new vocabulary or this new terminology throughout the industry. Let's talk about that.
Well, you know, I want to really just highlight the importance of the distinction between somebody that's just a participant in a classroom setting that's just listening to somebody talk for hours on end about their expertise versus somebody that's really a learner. And so as adults, and David O'Brien is super passionate about this, but adults learn differently than children do. And so we have to cater our learning to the way that an adult, their brain is wired and the way that they're going to retain and have that information. And then also, you know, take it beyond the classroom. We have to have a strategy and we have to have implementation that engages the person beyond just, okay, we've sat in a classroom. We've been here for several hours, several days. We've gotten to know each other. Now I'm going to step out and you're on your own. That's not the way that we want to do our business. What we want to do is pair that technology where the learner can get into real games and fun scenarios, earn real currency, earn real points to exchange within different exchange systems in our platform. But then tying it all together is our community team that is really building the relationships with the individual learners. So the service advisors, the sales consultants, the management team, they're having those one-on-one conversations and delivering strategies, learning that really is tailored around what each dealership's challenges and even what each OEM's challenges are and what they want to see their learners improve.
And you get people doing things. Let's talk about that. You mentioned it's not just, you know, listening to somebody deliver a lecture on what they've done before. You got people actually applying the learning and practicing it. And, you know, take us through some of the things that you do, because there are things happening like on the new car side, shortage of vehicles, influx now of customers coming in to get their vehicles serviced. There are some nuances that are very special to this time. And I know Quantum addresses all of those for their dealer clients.
Yes, well, and let me just frame it around the perception of what a customer really wants, because that's the foundation for everything that comes from our learning and from our technology. It's completely centered around the customer experience and the customer. And I'm definitely the customer that likes to go to certain restaurants, and when I walk in, the person knows my name, even sometimes knows my order because I frequent it so often. And that's a personal relationship. And I choose to do business with that business over someplace else because of that relationship that we've established. And so for us, it's important to really equip all of the dealership personnel and our learners that are handling our customer interactions with those same strategies that lead to better outcomes. And so specifically, you know, my passion has always been BDC, but we have strategies around sales, service, business development, and leadership skills. You know, just to speak on the BDC results, one of the cool stories that we saw with one of our dealer clients was that their BDC department had about a 30% overall appointment rate. And what I mean by that is, you know, when a customer was coming in for service, only about 30% of the people coming into their service drive actually had a physical appointment in their DMS and in the system. And so that means, 70% of your clients are choosing to just show up. And that's obviously not an ideal situation when you're talking about managing your shop hours, looking at workflow, looking at advisor schedules, because 70% of the time you can't control what may be happening in your workday. And so what we did is we enabled different multi-channel communication strategies. We taught the learners how to go through securing the appointment better with more strategies to engage the customer and to make sure that also that their scheduler was set up accordingly, where it was going to have a great way to load the shop capacity in the correct way. And so after we made those changes with those outcomes, we were really excited to see that the dealership within a couple months had popped up to a 63% appointment rate. So that was a huge swing in difference. And that was just really tailoring it again to a specific situation where we went in, we got to know the dealership. We talked about the entire department, what the customer challenges were, and then helped design learning and scenarios that helped them achieve what they wanted, which was more control over the appointments that were coming in, the service advisors feeling like they had better spacing in their day and they were able to do more repair orders. And then the technicians too, now the technicians have a more consistent workflow in their shop.
And your training is not one size fits all, like you're saying right now. You take the time to listen to their needs. And like you just mentioned, for the service advisors, perhaps it means spacing out those reservations or those appointments so they have more time to work with the client and, of course, free them up, from things like the phone so that they can have that, super valuable time where great brands have been built on being intuitive and, being attentive to the customer's needs. You and I talked about, Disney and things like the Ritz-Carlton and the Four Seasons. You bring that type of thinking to the retail automotive industry.
Yes. And really to just emphasize that we're not the company that's going to come in and say, here's the 12 steps to a sale. And these are the exact things that you need to do without fail every time in order to be successful. We definitely have processes and strategies that work, but we're going to sit down with the dealership and actually listen and say, okay, what are the challenges that you're facing? What things do you like? What things don't you like? And let's talk about the communication. Let's talk about strategies that we can equip your people with that are actual people skills, where regardless of what the process is, because you and I both know so much has happened in the last couple of years where the processes have gone kind of out the window at certain points and they've had to be completely rewritten. Well, this is really focused around the people skills and communication so that you can measure and adapt your processes to see where the results, you want to focus on how you can back into it to make the changes to see the results that you want.
Everybody, we're talking today to Sarah Vantine. She is the Vice President of Sales at Quantum 5. Sarah, there's a lot of technology throughout our industry now, new technology, emerging technology. Your company, Quantum 5, works with technology. At the end of the day, though, it's still a people business. Talk to us about that, because it is people that ultimately earn the trust of other people and become clients of the dealership.
Yes. So technology can't exist in a vacuum, and it can't exist in just an isolated pocket. And so thinking about the dealership and thinking about operations, oftentimes dealerships struggle with the distinction between departments, and they focus on, okay, well, parts handles this facet. Well, service handles this facet. BDC handles this facet. And from a process standpoint, they're all completely disjointed. They don't have that cohesive experience. So, for example, common situation would be something like the customer calling into the BDC, asking a question. Hey, I bought a warranty with my car when I purchased it from you. I'd love to find out, is this covered? And that BDC person goes, oh, I don't know. I don't have access to that. I'll have to transfer it to service. And service takes the phone call, and maybe the advisor does, or maybe the advisor doesn't have access to that information. And so then the advisor is saying, well, I'll have to get you back to finance or sales so you can talk to them about the policy that you have. And again, it's very disjointed. And so what we really want to focus on is marrying the technology. So ours is really learner centric. Again, it's basically around all of the skills it takes to have cohesive communication strategies. But we pair it with our community team, which are people. And those people are talking to the dealership and going, okay, so talk to me about what happens when this call comes in and what happens to this customer under these circumstances. And there's things there that the dealership might not even realize, thinking, oh, wait a minute, I've got this one system that's sending a text message to the customer when their multi-point inspection's complete, but I have another system that's texting them when the repair order is actually finished for the invoice. And then I have another system text messaging them about something else. And so the customer is receiving all these different communications that are getting, bogged down on their phone, and the customer's getting confused because there may be, completely irrelevant messaging that's happening. So for us, it's really focusing more on, like you said, the Ritz-Carlton experience. It's having that skill to be able to look at the entire big picture and not each department in its own respective silo, and looking at that entire ecosystem and saying, what do we need to adjust for our customer where we can have a better ROI, where we can have more impact, where we want to move the needle on the numbers that we want to see, if it's customer pay repair orders, if it's effective labor rate, if it's more appointments, more appointment shows, whatever those targets for KPIs are, it's then backing into it with the learners and going, okay, what skills do we need to equip these people with so that they can have these intelligent and meaningful conversations with a client that actually get them to a result versus just sending it somewhere else for someone else to handle.
If our audience wants to reach out to you, Sarah, and find out what Quantum 5 can do for their dealership, what's the best way to do that? And then typically, how does the process start?
Yes. So, I'm the vice president of sales. So please reach out to me directly if you'd like to have a conversation on what Quantum can do for your stores. My email is Sarah, and it's right there in the ticker, at quantum5.ai. That's my direct email. If you'd also like to check out more about our company and see what we're doing for all of the different dealership departments, you can go to quantum5.ai and check us out there.
Wonderful. And Quantum has built an amazing portfolio, and you continue to grow. And Sarah, thank you for all you are doing for our industry. You have really, risen to the top of the ranks, and I'm excited to see where this is going. You're helping a lot of dealerships, making a big difference with their ROI, and great results. So, wonderful everything that we're hearing and seeing.
Thank you so much, Ted. It's been so impactful to be able to help hundreds of dealerships now and get the opportunity to connect with so many amazing people.
Remember, just a couple of years ago, you were helping and working with the 3 dealerships that you oversaw, and now we're hundreds. I can't imagine what a year or 2 from now is going to be, Sarah. So,
yes, thank you.
Everybody, reach out to Sarah Vantine with your questions. She's the vice president of sales at Quantum 5. You see the email here for Sarah at quantum5.ai, and of course, their website, quantum5.ai. Everybody, Sarah Vantine here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Presenting the Quantum 5 mobile app, the perfect companion in building frictionless customer experiences. After you complete your first in-person learning experience with our team, you'll enter the Quantum 5 world by receiving a text inviting you to download the app. Follow the steps from that link to download the app and verify your phone number. Then you're in. You'll then receive a congratulatory message and an introduction from Dave O'Brien, CEO of Quantum 5. Next, you'll select your social style, or you can take a quick assessment to determine it again. Once you choose your avatar, you're ready to get started. You must complete 1 card of each social style before you can unlock more personalized journeys. Next, we take you to the dashboard of the app, your one-stop source for all the information you need about your current progress, news, or daily quick tiles. Quick tiles are customizable tidbits of knowledge, quotes, or maybe a question to help you think about interactions you've had during your day. You can even configure the app to send you quick tiles during the day, to help you get engaged in the morning or to reflect on your day in the evening. Learnings are grouped into cards that have beautiful art to help you visually catalog your achievements. You can collect and eventually share these cards with your colleagues if you find one useful or memorable. You can see the progress of all your active cards right here on the dashboard. When you're ready to jump back in, simply select your card. You can tap to access your activities and track your progress, or see a summary of the character where you can also record notes personally related to the social style type. Here's an example of a video scenario. The video is presented, and the user can select the answer to progress to the next question. You can even turn your device sideways to see the video in full screen.
I've never driven a Raptor before.
Learnings on the card vary. This can be as simple as asking a multiple choice question, or as complex as a video scenario with multiple questions about the scenario. Community managers can send newsfeed items to your device. They're shown in chronological order with the most recent article first. When the article is no longer relevant, like an announcement of an event, it will automatically disappear from your feed. You can tap the View All button to see an expanded view of all the newsfeed items available. Depending on where you are on your learning journey, you might be able to start a new card. These cards will be shown in this section in stacks. Based on which card you choose, you can progress forward in your journey, or you can stay at this level and learn more about the current or previous topics. As mentioned earlier, once you have completed one card from each social style, more cards will become available. We're constantly creating new content, which will be distributed to members based on the journeys they're on. You'll receive a push notification when new cards are added to your journeys, so you can keep on learning. Your completed cards are always available for you to review. Help is a tap away. The Support tab opens an ongoing private chat between you and your community managers to help you with any issues you're experiencing. This concludes our quick tour of the Quantum 5 mobile app. Thank you for watching.
This is Jeff. Jeff's just a regular guy who received a holiday gift card from his local BMW center.
My name is Jeffrey Lee. I own a small business. Got a gift card in the mail with an incentive to come in and buy a new BMW.
So Jeff, what did you do with your holiday gift card?
So I ended up coming in, looking at an X3 is what I ended up buying.
So what do you say, Jeff? What do you think of your holiday gift card?
The gift card is as classy as the Beamer, so it did draw me in. I get a lot of junk mail. 95% of it goes to the wastebasket, like most of us probably. This one, you pick it up, you look at it, you open it up, and it's impressive.
Holiday gift cards, perfect for all your Jeffs, Janes. You get the picture.
Don't breeze off just yet. Here to get us rolling is David Boyle from TraXtion.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it is a great honor to welcome back to the conference David Boyle, who is the president and CEO of TraXtion, a great friend of the Fixed Ops community. David, welcome back to the conference.
Hey, Ted, great to see you.
Dave, great to see you. And I have seen you everywhere the last couple months. So congratulations on what TraXtion is doing. You've made great strides. It's very noticeable, Dave. And again, congratulations to you and your team.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we've been working hard to, we went through the rebranding last year, and we just, as I believe you and I discussed on the After Dark episode a few days ago, we just launched, this week actually, we launched our brand new version of TreadSpec X, which we're super excited about. So lots going on here. We're all exhausted, to be honest with you. It's been 12 hard months around here, but we're ready to go. And I've had 3 cups of coffee today, so I'm all fired up to get back at the roundtable and get after this.
Super. Well, I know you're going to address some big issues that dealers are facing both now and in the future. So, David, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm going to apologize, shameless plug here on the first slide for my podcast that we just relaunched. So getting ready and getting very excited to do that. I'm going to give one more plug on that before I get started. Relaunch my podcast, and I've got an episode that's going to be dropping here in about 2 to 3 weeks. And my very first guest, it's going to be an interview format. My very first guest is going to be none other than Mr. Les Silver. And for those of you who don't know, he is my mentor, has been my mentor for all of my career. So it's sort of like Miyagi and Daniel's son getting together and chatting about our feelings on the industry. So watch for that dropping sort of mid-September. So excited about that. But I want to talk today about some of the things that I think this industry needs to be thinking about, quite frankly. I'm very concerned, actually, about some of the things that we're starting to see in our industry. And there's lots of challenges right now. Everyone knows what they are. And every time I go to a different event and I speak, everybody's talking about EVs. We're talking about supply chain, with the recent posts from Ford and whatnot. People are talking about, the OEM direct selling model, and obviously the economy is getting tough right now. So there's lots of things that are certainly challenges, but there are 3 specific things that I want to focus on today. And I want to really sort of hopefully get some people to think about these things in a little bit different way than we have in the past. And I think at least 1 or 2 of these things I don't think anybody's really thinking about. Or not thinking about enough anyway, which has me concerned. That first thing is RO counts. I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see RO counts drop in our world like we've never seen before. I was talking to the dealer the other day, large dealer. In this month alone, he's predicting he's going to be off almost 20%. And my fear is that's just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse, and it's going to last a long time. And if you think about where this is coming from, this is coming from the fact that we've had this unprecedented, really 2 events in the last 24 months between COVID and the supply chain issues. We have lost a ton of cars out of the car park. We're just not selling as many cars, and our industry has built itself on the back of selling cars and then servicing the cars that we sell. We're not very good at going out and doing what the aftermarket does and going after cars that are not necessarily cars that we sold. And most of our service departments rely heavily, if not exclusively, on the cars that we sell. And if we're not selling them, and obviously, you could look at both the new vehicle and used vehicle, the SAR that has been predicted and is actually in the market now. This is an alarming thing that, quite frankly, I don't think we've ever seen before. And while this is challenging for, many aspects of the business, the impact on service is going to be maybe something we've never seen before. With that many vehicles out of the car park, there is the potential for 19 to 20 million service visits a year, poof, just being gone. If you average, over the first 5 years, according to Consumer Reports, an average of little over 2 visits a year, those cars that we haven't been selling are going to come back to bite us in the service department, literally. And I think that service managers need to be prepped for this. And I'm going to talk about, At the end, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I think service managers need to be doing in order to get ready for that. But if you aren't already seeing it in your service departments, you're going to, I believe. And this may be a very unprecedented thing, because certainly we've never seen anything like COVID before. And the combination of COVID and the supply chain issues that we've been facing, I don't think we've ever seen this type of situation in our industry. And the repercussions of that in service are going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Given the model that we currently have in our industry. The second thing that I'd like to draw attention to is the oil change, and specifically the fact that it is gone. It's going away, and it's eventually, as EVs take further hold, it's going to be gone completely. It's been going away for a decade. I mean, we went from 3,000 miles to 5,000 miles to 10,000 miles now to whenever the light comes on. And the oil change itself has been something that's been going away. And it's not the revenue that we lose, obviously, from an oil change that worries me. There's something much bigger at play, in my opinion, and that is we've used the oil change forever as the trigger for the service visit. Every maintenance package, every maintenance bundle is centered around an oil change. You open up your maintenance package, no matter what vehicle it is, and the very first item on there is an oil change. And we've used the oil change for as long as I've been in this industry. We've used that as the trigger when to come in and get the rest of the maintenance work done. Well, whether it's 7,500 miles, 15,000 miles, or whatever, the trigger for that visit and the reason that we have service visits in many ways for maintenance is based around the oil change. When that goes away with EVs in particular, what's going to be the trigger? What are we going to have the customer to come back in for? It's not going to be for an oil change. So we need to give some thought to how do we get around this, and how do we be successful and still have our customers coming back in on some level of frequency? If we don't do that, we're going to be in big trouble. We all know that the connection to sales and service and doing service and obviously selling more vehicles, as a result of keeping people in service is a key part of our business model. And if we start to have less service visits over time, it's going to be, I think, devastating for the industry. So we need to give some thought to what is going to be the trigger. What are we going to invite people in for? The third thing and the final thing everyone's talking about right now, and I think they're talking about it for the wrong reasons, in my opinion, but that is the potential labor shortage that we've got, in particular technicians. And it's not just technicians, obviously it's service advisors and everybody that we need to keep our service operations running. But the technician shortage in particular is going to be a tough one. It is a tough one, and it's going to continue to be a tough one going forward. And we've got to have a better plan than I think we have today to get around this and be successful. And one of the things the thing that I want to focus on specifically is what kind of labor do you need? Because I think that's where we need to be focused, as an industry is, what kind of people do we need? What kind of technicians do we need? And is that going to change over time? And I think anecdotally, we think that it will, at least I think that it will. And I think we need to talk about that more in our world and figure out a way to meet the challenge, meet the needs as we go forward with the right type of labor. And it's a different type of labor, in my opinion, than we've traditionally had. Obviously, we still need technicians that can do diagnostic work. But if you believe any of the other things that we've talked about, and I've always talked about when I come to do the roundtable, the tire work, the brake work, the maintenance type work that is still going to need to be done on whether it's regardless of it's an ICE engine or an EV. Those are the types of technicians that I think is going to be the growth area in our business. I think the diagnostic technicians and the guys that can fix problems are still going to be needed, but as things like over-the-air diagnostics take further hold, I think that's going to be an area that's going to grow, but not at the rate that the technicians, the skill level of the technician that is willing to make a living doing tires and brakes and batteries and wiper blades and things like that, the consumables that are going to be a key piece of a dealer service department in the future, without a doubt. So there's those three things that I kind of want to talk about as I turn the corner here in this presentation, and that is the declining RO counts, the loss of the visit trigger, and the labor shortage. The declining RO counts is going to be a challenging one, right? Because what is the solution? Well, the solution is we got to sell more, figure out a way to sell more to the fewer people that we have. And that's always been a challenge in our industry. You know, we've attempted through multi-point inspections and things like that to do a better job of that. But we've in many cases, I mean, I think most dealers have good multi-point processes, and I think I think most dealers would say they do a pretty good job there, and we may have sort of, you know, reached the peak, if you will, there in some ways. If the RO decline is what I predict it's going to be, we're going to need big swings. You know, I was saying this to a dealer the other day who's a golfing buddy. I said, you know, this is not get out the putter. This is getting out the big dog. We need big swings here. We need big chunks if we're going to make up for this massive drop in car counts. We're going to need big things, not little things, to look at. And, you know, I've been preaching this since my very first roundtable. And, you know, the biggest opportunity I believe the dealers have is in tires. Tires and the work around tires, the around the wheel work around tires, because the dealers currently have an 8.2% market share, just updated this year. We have a very, very small percentage of that business. Most of it goes to the aftermarket, as we know. And if we're looking for a big swing, if we're looking for a big chunk to grab, to me, this is the focus that dealers need to have. And the good news is that the tire industry is probably the only segment of service and repair that's predicting some pretty aggressive growth in the next 3 years. EVs play a role of that. We know that EVs are tough on tires. They play a big role in that, obviously. But, you know, it's the tire industry is ripe for the picking, in my mind. Or the tire replacement industry is ripe for the picking for dealers because it's going to grow, and because, you know, we have, quite frankly, we do such a crappy job now at selling tires to our customers. So if you're looking for that one thing to focus on as your RO counts are declining, my recommendation would be to really dig into tires. There's an opportunity there, and it's not just the revenue from the tire, as we've talked about, it's alignments. You know, dealers currently capture about 17% of the alignment market. So there's a massive opportunity with alignments, and all the work that goes from around the wheel that goes with it is a big, big part of this opportunity. So that, to me, would be the first place I would look to combat these declining RO counts, is to really get in the tire business, really commit to it like you probably never have before. In terms of loss of the trigger, this one also, I think, is a fairly easy one for me anyway. And obviously I'm biased given what I do. But if you look at, and earlier, you know, I showed a maintenance menu from Chevrolet. This is another one for an EV. First thing you should notice is how much smaller it is. But you can see what they're using as the trigger, and that is a tire rotation. Something that is tire related on EVs, I believe, is going to be the trigger. And in my mind, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that today. If the oil change ultimately is going to go away, let's rethink the way we do this. And let's look at creating tire and alignment inspections as the trigger for the visit. I've been saying this, you know, obviously I'm biased. It's what I do. My company supports helping dealers sell more tires and alignments. I'm waiting for a dealer. I'm looking for one. If you're the one, call me. Love to talk to you through this. I'm looking for a dealer that's going to build a brand around, you know, just like the old Texaco gas station commercials, for those of you who are old enough to remember it. You know, the guys pulls in for gas and they come out and they check the air pressure and check the wiper fluid and whatnot, and all that stuff. I'm waiting for a dealer to build a brand around free tire and alignment checks. No appointment needed. Bring in, help us manage what arguably could be, other than gas, the largest single expenditure that people have on their cars these days is the tire replacement. Help them manage that wearable, that consumable, by offering, you know, an alignment check and a tire check at regular intervals. Make that part of your maintenance menus, and offer that, and make that the trigger. Even while we have oil changes, make that the trigger. Let's get people in the habit of coming in and having their tires checked two times a year, 3 times a year, perhaps for EVs. so that if they do start to wear, we can get ahead of it and we can maximize the life of the tire. I think this is a huge opportunity for the industry. Again, I'm biased, obviously, but I think if dealers thought about this, they would realize that there's such a huge opportunity here.
David, it's brilliant to have that new trigger be the rotation, because even as the manufacturers have gone to those longer cycles for the oil change, and like you said, even just the light, to have that rotation now back as the trigger is because the EVs are going to go through those tires a lot quicker, heavier vehicles.
And they're exactly, Ted, and they're more expensive. If you look at most of the tires on EVs and even most of the new cars today, I mean, I just bought a new pickup truck and the tires on my truck are just, I mean, I looked them up and, gone are the days of an $80 tire in today's world. We've got low profile tires and 18-inch wheels now on almost every car, even entry-level vehicles. These are not inexpensive services anymore. You'd be looking at a, $600-700 bill in some cases. And that also, by the way, is part of the problem and why dealers don't do very well at that. I'll come back to that at the end, because I got an offer for people at the end of this presentation that I want to tie back into. But you're absolutely right, Ted. This is a massive opportunity, and I'm just waiting for some dealers to get real aggressive here and say, you know what, I'm going to make this part of my brand. You come to, XYZ dealership, and when you sell a car, we're going to talk about it. When you come in for your service visit, it's going to be for a tire inspection, nothing else. The last piece that I want to talk about is the labor shortage piece. And I'm going to come at this in a little bit of a different angle because, listen, there's lots of issues right now with getting technicians. We all know that, this generation doesn't necessarily, this generation of young people is not necessarily looking for these types of jobs. I believe that we as parents, and I'm in that generation, I think, that has sort of created this problem. We sort of made it a necessary thing that all of our kids went to college, unlike when I was a kid. And that has really created part of this problem, right? We've got now an entire segment of our population that really, is not geared and has got educated so that they don't necessarily want to do this type of work, and has created some of the shortages that we see today. But I want to talk about those a little bit different. I want to talk about what I said earlier in terms of what kind of labor do you need. I believe that the technician that is going to do the type of work that Ted and I were just talking about, the tire rotations, the brake work, the sort of light maintenance type stuff, is the big growth area for dealers. And if that's the case, you need to change the way that you hire. We always are looking to hire technicians that have got as many stripes on their sleeves as possible, and obviously we need those guys to do the difficult to diagnose stuff. But I think that segment of the hiring need is going to go away, and not go away, but it's going to diminish, I should say. And I think the big need is going to be in those other types of technicians, and we need to change how we prospect. There's a massive pool of potential prospects out there that we don't do a good job tapping into, and that's all the companies as prospects that I've got on the screen. We need to do a better job, quite frankly, of offering technicians that are working in the aftermarket a better career path, a better work environment, benefits, a nicer place to work, clean lunchroom. There's so much that dealers can offer these types of technicians that it would be relatively easy, I think, to get a number of them to jump and come to work at a dealership. And that's the type of technician that we need, quite frankly. We want to get the guy that is willing to be, to use the vernacular of a tire buster, a guy that wants to, do that type of work for a living, and is willing to do that for his career. We can hire those guys because the aftermarket hires those guys all the time. And we should look first and foremost to hire them away from them if we can. Because as I said, we've got a much better opportunity to offer them, not just in work environment, but in a career path potentially, if they want to grow within the dealership world. So I would encourage every service manager out there to figure out where these guys hang out after work and go by and drop your business card off and try to find out where you can tap into these guys that work in these tire shops and in these aftermarket shops and attract those guys to your dealership. I think it'll be relatively easy to do because I think we have a lot more to offer them. So those three things essentially is sort of what I wanted to talk about today, Ted, and sort of challenge the way people think, and most importantly, to rethink business as usual. Some of these things aren't right now things necessarily. I mean, there's lots of people that are saying, well, the oil change is not going away, Dave. But you know what, guys, if we don't start thinking about these things now, we're going to get caught with proverbial pants down here if we're not careful, because this is going to happen quicker than we think. And the RO count situation is upon us, and it's not going to get any better for the foreseeable future. I think that there's nothing to stop us, quite frankly, as an industry from really not only weathering this storm that we're in terms of EVs coming and RO counts dropping and technician shortage. We shouldn't be looking to weather this storm. We should be looking to accelerate through this. We should be putting our foot flat on the gas and figuring out a way to come out the other side 10 times stronger than we went in. Mm-hmm. And that requires people to really rethink this business as usual. It's not going to be the same as it always was. Never will be. These changes are going to change our industry forever. And I think that if we just look at things a little bit differently, we've got a huge opportunity to improve. And the last thing I would say, Ted, before I turn the microphone back over to you is, I mentioned, some of the problems that we see with selling tires and why dealers have an 8.2% market share. As for members of our audience here, your audience here, Ted, with the Fixed Ops Roundtable, I'm going to offer today a free white paper. I wrote a white paper a couple of weeks back, and it was entitled 8% Market Share, Why Do Dealers Suck at Tires? And I am prepared to offer that to anybody that wants it. They can reach out to the roundtable. They can send me an email directly. My email's on the screen there if they'd like, and I'm happy to share this white paper. I think you might be shocked as to why there are two very specific reasons why dealers don't do well with tires. And that's the first step, quite frankly, in figuring out what we need to change going forward to get better at this. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'm happy to share it. And that's my conversation for today. Ted, back over to you.
Dave, I think it's so important that we're going to go ahead and share that right now with the audience, that white paper. Fantastic. If for some reason you do not receive it, Dave's email is up on there. And I imagine, Dave, there'll be folks watching this not live, okay, a little bit later on. But the notes that I took away, everybody, three big things that David Boyle has shared with us. Number one, declining RO counts. Number two, loss of the oil change as the trigger. And now the tire rotation to take that spot. Brilliant. Number three, rethink that labor shortage into the type of labor that we're going to need moving forward. And David, big thinking, and this industry is going to require that big thinking to move forward. And you're right. These are opportunities where we should come out a whole lot stronger, not just look to survive, but get better.
I'm counting on this industry, Ted. We're a resilient bunch. Dealers are some of the most resilient entrepreneurs that I've ever met in my life. And I think that the only reason we haven't done better here is because we haven't, if you know what I mean. This is not hard. There's nothing that really needs to be figured out. It's just a time that we need to put a line in the sand and say, we're going to do it. And that's what it's going to require.
David Boyle, everybody, the best in the business at TraXtion, which offers solutions for your dealership. David has rethought that entire process to make it more attractive and easier for your dealerships to be able to offer those alignment services to your consumers. So, David Boyle, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, thank you for all you do for our industry, and thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you, Ted. It's a great pleasure to be with you as always.
With new TraXtion software, the consumer will receive the results of their tire and alignment check sent directly to their smartphone. As soon as the tire scan is complete from the TreadSpec drive-over scanner, the results of the scan are sent to the consumer via text message. By clicking on the link in the text, a personalized interactive tire health report is generated for their vehicle. Each tire's condition is displayed showing the appropriate color based on the amount of wear. If they click on the tire, the wear profile is displayed for the tires on that axle. Showing the side view of the profile, color-coded based on wear, has proven to be the most effective way to graphically show the consumer what they need and help increase sales. If the vehicle needs an alignment or rotation check, the inspection icon will be illuminated either by the steering wheel or the rear axle. The alignment page graphically shows, using video animation, what the problem is: toe or camber wear. The TireWise assistant helps explain why doing an alignment or rotation is important. The web-based e-tread tracker report also makes it easy to pass this information around. So, with one click, the person in your store can send all the same information to a spouse or parent, so a joint decision can be made. Not everyone will buy that day. In fact, the data shows that roughly 50% will need more time to think about it. You must have a way to follow up with these customers, or you'll risk losing them to a competitor. And we all know if you lose them for tires, you run the risk of losing them forever. The management reporting module in TraXtion produces a suite of reports that gives you actionable data to help manage this process. Missed sale opportunity reports, future yellow tire, marketing reports, and most importantly, a scorecard that shows how you're doing and how each of your people are doing individually. The old saying, "Inspect what you expect," gets a 21st century upgrade with TraXtion, with fully automated reporting that allows management to easily and actively manage this process. It's the ultimate tire and alignment selling solution for dealers. TraXtion.
Four out of 5 dealers use CARFAX Car Care to attract more service business and increase ticket averages. Why not yours? List your dealership in our directory, where new customers can find your dealership service center, browse verified reviews, and schedule service with just one click. The best part? It's free. Your dealership also gets included in the CARFAX report, alongside maintenance work you've performed. That's a lot of free exposure. Plus, increase your ticket averages by spotting additional service requests with a view into each vehicle's complete service history, not just the work performed at your dealership. 97 of the top 100 dealer groups use CARFAX Car Care to gain more business and drive higher revenues. It's free. Join CARFAX Car Care today.
This panel is the cat's meow, or should I say car's meow. Up next is the CARFAX panel with David Kain.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it is a great honor to introduce this prestigious panel that's coming up. It includes Bob Grill, who is with CARFAX, Rich Mahon from Toyota South Atlanta, and David Kain from Kain Automotive, all superstars in our industry. And our panel is titled Partnering with Sales to Drive Success. Let me start by welcoming Bob to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
How are you? Glad to be here. We appreciate the invite, and we're looking forward to this, actually. Very exciting.
Bob, I got to tell you, this topic that you and Rich and David have put together is long overdue. We've talked about the necessity of sales working with service and parts and fixed operations, and Bob, it's probably never been more timely than today.
No, exactly right. As the event of the last 2.5 years have come to fruition, a lot of dealers have had to adjust. A lot of dealers have had to find different ways to be successful. And certainly the dealers that have found a way to do what hasn't always been the best, right? It hasn't always been the best situation between sales and service and a car dealer. The ones that have managed to find a way to partner up absolutely find more success than they do trying to get it done by themselves.
I love it. Well, Rich and David, I'm gonna take some notes because I can't wait to hear what you've got to share with us. And Bob, I'm gonna step out of the way and I'm gonna let you get things rolling.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Ted. Gentlemen, nice to meet you guys. Appreciate you doing this panel. I couldn't ask for two better people to do this panel with for our audience, just so you know. David Kain and Kain Automotive are a expert panel on phone, inbound, e-leads, internet, everything to do with getting them to the dealership, right, David, how to handle them and get them excited and get into the store. And of course, Rich Mahon is the GM and managing partner for Toyota South Atlanta, who has a very successful service and sales team. So I asked these gentlemen to be on the panel. So gentlemen, thank you for joining. Looking forward to this few minutes here to talk to the dealers, which have reached out to us in droves, asking for different things to do. What can we do? You know, things that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, right? Anyone can throw money at a problem, but there's lots that a dealer can do without spending money, right? Just taking a look inside and doing a few little things. So, Rich, I'm just going to let you take over for a few minutes. I know the last 2 years, just like all the other dealers, you had to find ways to become more successful and maximize your profitability in an ever-changing environment. So would you just get us going with a little bit with what you've been going through for the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think I've experienced with what most dealers have gone through since the start of the pandemic. You know, it started with not really knowing what that social interaction would be, to staffing issues, to inventory issues. Now we have staffing and inventory issues, and you're right. And someone told me, you know, as margins increased on the variable side, you know, I think a lot of attention and focus for dealers went there because that's where it was easy money, right?
Yeah.
And what I was told was a lot of bad decisions are made during good times.
Well,
so we were seeing increased margins and taking our eye off the prize, and the prize is still your fixed operations.
Yeah.
And the other thing I saw was a lot of dealers and general managers reaching out saying, "Hey, I equity mine in the service department, but it's not working." Well, guess why it's not working? You don't have new cars to put them in.
Right.
So that easy flip was kind of diluted a little bit there. The other thing was with the social interaction, there were a lot of clients that I found in the service department that didn't want to be interrupted if they chose to stay here on property to talk with a equity mining department or you know, trade upgrade specialist, however you want to label that position. And you know, one of the things we did, and we were kind of forced to make this decision, was we completely scrapped our equity mining department and started over. And my methodology was real simple. It was, you're using the KISS method, and we broke it down and we unmanned the department. And I know some people and skeptics have said, "What are you thinking?" And what we did was we went to a hang tag, a thank you hang tag, which was our RO bib in the window. And we were using your trade appraisal tool with a QR code. And I did it out of necessity in the beginning because I didn't have anybody to man the department. But what I found was people on their own right and own curiosity were starting to scan that QR code because they were able to get an instant cash offer. And out of curiosity, they want to know what their car was worth.
Yeah.
And through that, our equity mining came back to life.
Yeah.
We're converting these service customers back into not always a new car, but a lot of times one of our certified pre-owned vehicles. Because listen, if they're trading an 8-year-old vehicle, well, a 7-year upgrade is still a really good deal and acquisition for them.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
And this unmanned position was absolutely free to the dealer. It didn't cost me anything.
That's the best part.
And the customers liked it because they were doing it on their terms. You know, I think so many times the dealers have this fear of loss, so they have to be in control of every micro moment. But sometimes if you just let loose and let go of that fear of loss, you wind up gaining so much more. So we found some incredible success on this program over the last 18 months. And we have a lot of people that are in my professional circle now applying the tactic to their stores and seeing similar successes. So that's kind of the biggest move that I've seen where I was forced to make. The other thing is, you know, during the last 2 years, we really have to take a look at the shift in our business model.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at acquisitions for used cars, you just don't have the auction lane. You just don't have your service lane. You have to harvest and touch all of these different outlets where you can put your hands on these used cars. You have to put a lot more thought into it. You have to make sure that used car has a story to tell when it hits your lot that makes it special, because that's what's ultimately going to drive your traffic and make it easier to convert. So that's where I'm at right now.
You know, you had shared that story with the hang tag, and I know you've had a great deal of success for that, and we wanted to certainly put that out there to the listening audience, because again, trying to come up with creative ways that are functional and easy to install and don't cost a lot of money. You know, that's the golden ticket these days, right? Tomorrow's always a new challenge for us, it seems, lately. And David, I know you've been doing a lot of work and working with a lot of dealers about how do you interact with those customers, right? How do you communicate with those customers, whether it be sales or service? And even that's changed in the last 2 or 2.5 years, right? People are getting a little worn out at this point.
Yeah.
So, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about changes that have taken place in the last 2 years, because the old BDC isn't the old BDC today. The old call center isn't the old call center today, right? There's different techniques that have come around in the last 2 years. Would you share some of that with us?
Sure. And boy, I think Rich really hit on the head with that golden nugget. And certainly when you look at BDCs, one of the challenges for them is how do you handle the cost of that? So in Rich's situation, part of that strategy is sometimes you just take the human element out of that. However, humans do sell cars, humans do work towards acquisition of vehicles, and ultimately in any situation, it comes down to that human contact once they fill out the form. And one of the things that we've learned is, particularly during the pandemic, is consumers really desire interaction, meaningful interaction. People ask me every once in a while, they'll say, when's the best time to call a customer? And it's when they're expecting the call. When's the best time to email or text? And what happens oftentimes is we still go back to almost like when you and I started when we were young kids in the car business, Bob. They hand you the phone book and say, call people.
Yeah.
Nowadays, with technology the way it is, we're able to track that consumer's behavior, as Rich is doing with his strategy with the QR code and affixing a value to the vehicle, so that it just cues up the human to have that interaction. So one of the first things that we try to do is to leverage the technology and make sure that if we've got a history with the customer, that we acknowledge that. So one of the first things that we want to do is to go in and see, have they bought vehicles from us before? Are they in for service for the first, 5th, or 10th time? And that affords us an opportunity where we can welcome them back. Yeah. And if their first time, as the technology indicates, it's first time they're in the door, we need to recognize that and say, wow, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. It looks like this could be the first time that we've had an opportunity to work with you, and we're really looking forward to it. So I have often heard that ATM machines communicate more personally than some BDC representatives. Yeah. So you stick your card in the machine that says, welcome back, Rich. Thanks for doing business with us. And it's that simple, is when we can open up the interaction, we can talk to them about things that are important to them, and most of all, find out why they are in the market for whatever they want to do, whether it's trading in a vehicle, whether they want to just sell a vehicle outright, whether they want to come in for service. Amazon Advertising released an interesting study about a year ago, and they said 72% of people in the market are going through a life-changing experience. And I think that's probably true today as it has been forever. Whether it's a marriage like what you might have gone through recently with your daughter, Bob, or certainly graduations, new homes, new children, retirement. All of those variables cause people to do things. And when we can communicate at that level and join their journey, it just really humanizes us and makes us more attractive as humans and as businesses.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that, I had never heard that analogy with a banking machine, but you're exactly right. Right, you're exactly right. One of the things we wanted to make sure and cover some ground on today, when you look at the title of this, driving success through sales, right? I do think that to this day is still something that's overlooked, right? Because the traditional dealer has both departments doing their own thing, driving profitability, maybe even separating them a little bit, right? Trying to drive both economic engines, if you will, for the dealership. But when you look at stats, right? I'm not a real big stats guy. I don't always like going there, but there's some that just scream needing attention, right? And that simply is, if your customer that you sold a vehicle to has been in your service department in the last 12 months, right? They are 74% likely to come back to your dealership and buy their next vehicle. And if they've been loyal since the beginning, this is a Toyota study actually, if they've been loyal since the beginning, bought that car new from you and done all the routine maintenance and everything, on an average of a 42-month contract, it's an 86% return rate, right?
Wow.
There's nothing that strong in the industry anywhere else in the industry for those kind of return rates, right? So it definitely is something where if you manage both parties together, right? The old saying when we got in the business was, there's no such thing as a used car factory, right? You remember those? You got yelled at by your manager. There's no such thing as a used car factory. Sell them the blue one, right? So here's the deal. Today, there is. Today, you can have your own used car factory if you can manage and maintain your service department along with your sales department, getting your new car customers to engage with you. If you look at the averages in the nation, most dealers today are less than 50% conversion from sales to using their service department, right? That leaves over half your own customer base, that if you work together, if you cultivate it the right way, you can get success. Now, this isn't finding strangers out there to get them to your dealership. These are people that bought cars from you, that enjoyed doing your business in most cases with your dealership, right? So being able to create that partnership better than it's ever been in the past, being able to drive these customers back through your service department, which we know is most profitable, even today, it's very profitable. That is the key, right? Because every car that you create now becomes a homegrown inventory. If you've done all the service and maintenance and you can tell that story and it's been well maintained by certified mechanics, that certainly puts you above whatever you could buy outside your dealership. Would you agree with that, Rich?
I would. And the best, the power play there is you have the history. Right. You have a story now to tell the potential buyer, where the car came from. You have factual information. One of the biggest fears of buying a used car is the unknowns, right?
Right.
How was it previously taken care of? What did it actually go through? And when you can sit there and say, this is a one owner, bought here new, serviced here, traded back in here, that's the golden ticket to make for an easy sale.
Yeah, one of the things, the new generation of buyer, right, depending on who you ask and what part of the country, it's almost 70% now of the buyers are the millennial generation, right? We've reached that milestone. And one of the things they brought to the table when considering buying a used vehicle is future cost, right?
Yes.
It used to be, how much is it? What's my down payment? What's my trade worth? What's my payment? Those were the four big ones, right? Today, that's not so much the four big ones, right? They brought to the table, you ask any of your salespeople, what are your customers asking you? It's, hey, what have you done to the vehicle? Am I going to need tires? Am I going to need future costs, right? So again, when you can show that communication, when you can show that you've taken care of the vehicle, you inspected the vehicle, here's what we did, here's what it comes with now for warranty, right? That whole element, when you're under control, when you can show them, hey, we took care of this car. So the best predictor of the future is the past, right? That's why they like things like personally owned vehicles and personal lease vehicles. Have you found that to be true, David, too? They the first question is it still available, right? That's
yes, of course.
But are you finding the questions they're asking to be a little different than they used to be in those kinds of situations?
Yeah, they are. And it's interesting that you bring up the future costs, because ultimately, if you look at what Consumer Reports has made their whole living on, is predicting what the cost of maintenance is going to be and whether that vehicle is going to hold up. And when a consumer comes in and they're loaded with a lot of industry statistics, they've done the data search and they picked maybe 3 or 4 vehicles that they've decided are going to fit what they're looking for. One of the things that we're hearing from them is, besides the cost of the monthly payments, how can I offset that with extended service plans or maintenance plans and elements like that that are true profit centers for the dealership, but better than that, they're true ownership, satisfaction variables. So, one of the things that really struck me when I was a young buyer was, how do I protect against any unknown cost? And if you've got a great service department backed up with extended service agreements and things that help offset the future maintenance cost, that makes a big difference. Now, the beauty of that is, in a dealership like Rich, when he's able to then advertise that vehicle on his own website or sit there right on the telephone with the BDC or the sales agent talking to the guest and to say, there's another benefit to this particular, but was bought here, serviced here, and we've got all the records, and that will make you feel really good. We recondition it, we put new tires on it, that won't cost you any more in the future for the next couple of years. All of those variables to ownership are really important for us to be able to convey that both in our marketing and in our communications one-on-one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Rich, I wanted to ask you real quick too. When you're appraising vehicles, right? When you or your appraisers are looking at those vehicles, do you take that into consideration? Do you bump the value of that vehicle, especially if it's your own vehicle, or how do you recognize that it's your own vehicle?
Absolutely. The appraisal now has really changed. There's a lot more work that goes into it than it was a few years ago. And let me go back, because like you said, the past is a predictor of the future, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have a customer coming in the door. It's a trade that's never seen your service department, all that. As a used car manager, as a general manager, I'm questioning, why is he here at my doorstep wanting to trade his Honda or his Nissan or whatever the make and model may be? Is there something behind, hidden under the covers? So we take a lot more steps now, using tools to scan, to make sure codes weren't reset and so forth. So that all goes in. So now, Bob, to your question, we have Mr. and Mrs. Jones who we know have bought in 2 or 3 vehicles from us. We see the vehicle constantly in service, and it shows up the doorsteps. We're almost put at ease.
Right.
I'm willing to pay more because I know my reconditioning costs will most likely be less than my average reconditioning costs on the other ones, because it was always maintained here.
That makes sense.
Makes the strategy, the exit strategy for that vehicle a lot simpler.
Question for you. Does that roll into when they do buy another vehicle, you show them, well, you've serviced this here, you've maintained this here, it's worth more money because of that? Does that keeps the system rolling, right? That encourages them to go back through and use your service department and continue to use your service department. Would you agree with that?
It absolutely does. And we use, I'm not here to promote, but the CARFAX for Life, we make sure that they're signed on for that, so they're getting notifications. We have the app on the phone.
Right.
And it does add value, and customers are seeing that. They know they're going to get top dollar. And guess what? They're also a little more ambitious to ask for even more money. And their reasoning for demanding more money is because they did maintain it here at the dealership.
Well, they only ask because they plan on buying.
Okay paying it.
Right? Yeah, they only ask because they plan on buying. That's always a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Hey, David, I know we're pushing up a little bit on our time, but I wanted to reach out to you one more time. There's been a lot of effort put forth to try and do business online, 100% online, and you and I both know the personal element that needs to be put in there. And at the height of COVID, the total online purchases was only at about 15%, with the highest scare tactic out there, right, that people would be afraid of. But at the end of the day, Cox has said that the first time the dealer actually gets to interact with the customer, over 54% of the time is at the front door. Right, Hyundai just came out with a study that said 95% of transactions still happen at the dealership. So how does that dealership, when they're communicating with their customer, how do you get that to a comfort level where the customer will come to the dealership and visit you, right? We know that if they've been in your service a little bit regular, they're more comfortable coming. That's why they like doing business with you. But you don't want to alienate your best customer by every time they come to go to service, you're asking them to buy a new car. Right, you don't want to taint the best relationship you have. So how do How do you teach that? What do you tell the people to be careful of, or maybe emphasize this, but not so much that? Or are there little techniques you can share with our audience today?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that Rich opened up with his technique, because I think that's really, really powerful. And we've literally got telephone calls recorded where the guest says to the agent, I don't want to bring my car in because every time I do, you will ask me if I want to trade it or sell it. So
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. So truly a more passive approach is appropriate. One of the things, going back to what I started with at the beginning, is when the guest really sees them in the frame that it is time to trade. And I think marketing in a softer way, that now's a really good time. Your vehicle's never been worth more. If you brought your vehicle in for service, it makes all the difference. And Bob, you and I've talked about the signer organization out in Salt Lake City that created this category called the Signer Original. And what they really said was, and Rich, I would encourage you to adopt this strategy. They said at delivery, and it has to organically start there, when you bring your vehicle in for service and maintenance, that's going to afford you to keep really good records, and it will become an original of our dealership, affording us an opportunity to give you a better value, and we'll know it better, and it affords them to then market. So if you walked out on the dealership lot, you would have the certified pre-owned, you would also have the regular used vehicles, and then you'd have a Signer Original. And it also gave the value to the appointment setters in the service department or sales department to say, oh, wow, this is really going to enhance the value of your vehicle. So when we turn it not into here's the cost of maintaining it, into here's a value of investing in your vehicle, and it's going to come back to you multifold at our dealership, that makes a big difference to the guest.
That is,
I'll tell you what, David, that's a great viewpoint for customer retention and
absolutely. That's cool. There's something, Rich. You got a nugget. You gave us a couple and you got one back. That's fair, right?
For sure.
You know, I definitely appreciate y'all's time today. You know, this is a topic that we could keep talking for 4 or 5 hours on, right? There's so much out there. And as you travel the country, as David and I do, you see lots of stuff out there, some of it crazy, some of it working, some of it not. So thank you for giving us your expertise today, gentlemen. It's certainly been worthwhile being able to pick up some new things. Ted, did you like that one? Did you pick up something?
I have been taking nothing but notes, Bob. And I tell you, Rich and David, that last one, I love the material. That was fantastic. And you know what it comes back to, Bob? You know, CARFAX has long been known as a transparent tool. Yeah. And David, if you remember, you know, some years ago, we started talking about transparency in the sales process and the F&I process. But Rich, what's happened right now is transparency has arrived in fixed operations. And Rich, what you described, the consumer having that CARFAX app on their phone and being able to access all this, Rich, that's the ultimate in transparency, and it gives the customer, Rich, a lot of confidence as well.
It really does. And if you're going to double down on anything, double down on bridging that sales to service and service to sales relationship, making it harmonious within the store, making sure that no one department's afraid of the other and that they are working all in tandem to keep that customer retained and loyal to you, because that's our future.
You know, it is absolutely true. Being able to let the consumer, Rich, you know, you started us out by saying when they're in control, they're a lot more comfortable and they're a lot more interactive. You know, we at CARFAX, we do have our car care app and our car care system, which is free to the public, right? It keeps all their service records and drives them and communicates directly with, for example, Rich's store or any of the stores. We have 25 million consumers that are on the car care system, and we've never had to advertise it, right? That's all people. You know, it's the old glove box full of receipts that you don't have to keep anymore. We remind them when their oil change is due, when their tire rotations is due. And, you know, we're not a dealer, right? So we're not trying to do it. So we communicate on the dealer's behalf and drive them to the dealers. And that's been something that's really helped. You know, Rich mentioned being able to get their number, being able to get their own number on their own. So many customers today, think about how you work with your home, right? You look at Zillow, even though you have no intention of selling your home. Everyone keeps up to date with that's what that does for them, that car care, so that it sets up a real expectation when they do visit, right? And then I know you gentlemen mentioned CARFAX for life. Again, CARFAX is a consumer product. So being able to communicate on the dealer's behalf and drive that business back to the service in a way the customer feels comfortable with it and they don't feel alienated, they don't feel the pressure. So we appreciate you guys mentioning both of those products. It's certainly something we're proud of.
Bob, CARFAX is trusted throughout the industry by both the consumer and the dealers as well. No doubt about it. Bob, if our audience wants to learn more about CARFAX and maybe take the next step with some of these tools that you're mentioning and that Rich and David have shared, Bob, how do we find out more?
Well, you can always reach out to your CARFAX reps, and also you can go to CARFAX.com, find out any information you would like from the products. And you know what? Just ask a CARFAX dealer. That's our best customer right there. That's our best commercial, is the actual CARFAX dealer that gets all the products.
Yeah. Hey, gentlemen, great stuff today. I want to, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, Rich Man, Toyota South Atlanta, I want to thank you so much and welcome you to the event as well. We've heard a lot about your organization, so great to meet you here virtually in person. And David, Kain, thank you for so much that you do for our industry. A great reputation, and David, great insights as well. And I took a lot of notes from what both of you gentlemen shared as well.
Thank
you, Ted.
It's so awesome to hear from you guys. Thanks for joining our panel.
And Bob Brill, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for what you and CARFAX do for our industry.
Always a pleasure. We don't take the partnership lightly, and we're always honored to be a part of it. So thank you very much, Ted.
Everybody, great honor to have with us today the panel here from CARFAX, here today partnering with sales to drive success here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
What a pleasure the first day of the Roaring 20s was. The Fixed Ops Roundtable sure does have the finest ladies and gentlemen in all of the automotive industry. Don't forget to pull out your futuristic telephones and vote for our Best Practice Awards that will be announced at the conclusion of Day 3. Thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned for Day 2 of this colossal event. And don't forget your dashing attire.